Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 633 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Thursday, if I remember correctly, April 24th, 2025. And it is... I cannot hear you at all, Mr. Grizzly. Today is Thursday, April 24th, 2025, and it looks like it's going to be a sunny day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, and with me, but at least a little fuzzy on my screen over here, is Mr. Grizzly. And for some reason, I cannot hear him either.
Yeah, and
now I can hear you. Okay, now I can hear you.
It's Restream. It's Restream is very problematic.
Yes.
There's an insane delay. It's not functioning on my computer properly. There's nothing I can do about it.
That's okay.
It's not my computer. It's not my connection.
Okay.
We'll roll with what we got.
Yeah, we'll roll with it. Okay. So we have Mr. Grizzly. So that's good. Excellent. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. A lot happened. So there's kind of a lot to go through. But before we do that, Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health today, sir?
So far, so good this morning. Yesterday was not a good day. Yesterday was a very dark day, one of the darkest I've had in years. No idea why. I was in a deep, dark hole yesterday, and I managed to climb out of it, obviously, but it was not a good day. I wish I could tell you why it happens. Nobody can. Doctors can't. Nobody can tell you why. One day you're good, the next day you're not. That's just mental health, man. It just punches you in the gut when you least expect it. And yesterday was an incredibly dark day. Managed to get out of it, obviously. I'm still here, so winning.
Yeah.
So let's pick myself up, dust myself off, and start all over again.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll have a little bit of joy and happiness today, and that'll give you some fuel for the rest of it. I'm sure the damn fam is sending you all the good stuff. All right. Well, there we go. Kid playing with 3D has some robins singing outside their window. How lovely. Okay. Kids and cubs. Oh boy. It's a smorgasbord of stuff that has taken place. Yesterday was a very busy day. Um, okay, let's see. I'm just looking to what I sent you here, Mr. Grizzly. Did you receive anything? There it is. Oh, yes. Okay. For some reason, it was not titled as I thought it would.
Yes, I did. I have it.
Okay,
Yeah, I have it.
excellent. Good. All right. So, but before we get into that, Kids and Cubs decided to do a little looking, and it seems that today is Take a Chance Day. So, a little early words of wisdom or something, but hey, take a chance, do something. Um, it's also Movie Theater Day and Canada Movie Day. So, hey, maybe if there's a Canadian movie out there, be a good time to go do something today and celebrate that. Sorry, Canada Movie Day was a week ago on the 16th, and we missed it. Today is Canada Book Day. So there you go. A book, a movie, do a little bit something to
Oh,
celebrate Canada.
I didn't know.
It's also Lover's Day. There you go. I didn't know there was a Lover's Day in addition to Valentine's Day, but there is a Lover's Day. So there you go. And finally, it seems that it is, methinks it be
News to me.
talketh like Shakespeare Day. Thus I and Sir Grizzly from Bear Bay wish thee and thine be merry chum, with mirth and laughter let old wrinkles come. Talk like Shakespeare Day. Who knew?
Okay.
The
Talk
things
amongst yourselves.
I was looking through stuff and all these things popped up. And it's like, oh, talk like Shakespeare. Okay, that's kind of cool. Now, unfortunately, we have to talk about something not as fun, and I'm trying to sandwich it in between good stuff because this is the part where we talk a little bit about what happened last night at the Stanley Cup. But there's another bit of hockey news yesterday. That's been so a trigger warning for anybody for whom SA is a trigger. But yesterday, the sexual assault trial of the ex-world junior hockey players started, and it unexpectedly adjourned for the day at some point. The judge sent the jury home so that she can discuss a matter with the lawyers, it would appear. So, yeah, it's 5 former world junior hockey players who are charged at the moment. The prosecutor said it was a case about consent. A detective was expected to testify in the afternoon, but the jury was sent home so the judge could work out a matter that transpired over the lunch break. Journalists cannot report what happens in the jury's absence, so there's no news. And court will resume at 10 a.m. today. That's about it. There's some CBC is doing has a live blog with live updates from the trial for those who are interested in following it. But there's going to be a lot of reporting about that in the news over the next couple of days. So just
Why was the jury dismissed, though?
well, that's why I said we don't know. All that we can find is
Yeah,
it's a matter that transpired over the lunch break, but the journalists are not allowed to report what happens in the jury's absence, so they can't publish. I'm sure journalists might have been there for whatever proceeding happened in court, but they're not allowed to report on it at all. So we don't know. Just something came up. So, but yeah, just the wheels of justice again. Grind infinitely slowly, but infinitely finely, and we'll see where this leads. But yes, this will be in the news for a while, for the next few days and months, of course, because after the trial, there's always time to consider before, and then there's verdict, and then there's always time to consider about sentencing. So, but yeah, that's in the news. On to better talk. In the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Leafs are up 2-0 over the Sens, and the Jets are up 2-0 over St. Louis. But in the other side, well, Montreal's down 0-2 to Washington. And after a 6-2 loss last night, Edmonton is down 0-2 to Los Angeles as well. I heard somewhere that this is like the fourth or fifth time in 4 or 5 years that they actually meet. So they keep on meeting up, LA and Edmonton. When the Montreal-Washington game was a good game. Montreal actually scored first this time around, so it was the first time they had, I believe, a lead in the match. But then 2 quick goals, rather quick goals from Washington made it 2-1, and then Montreal was all over the net, Washington's net, but with an empty net at their end, and unfortunately, not with a lot of effort and a lot of trying, but nothing went in, and well, Washington was able to get the third goal and the insurance goal in the empty net with I think 0.7 seconds left, so 3-1.
A lot of Montreal fans have been very realistic in the sense that they're very happy the team made the playoffs. It's the youngest team in the league, so they're hoping that next year you can build on it. Same thing. Senators were very happy the Sens made the playoffs. You could see that they were building toward it over the last couple of seasons. Although I expected a slightly different result in Game 2, and it was
I know.
that close. I mean, both Leafs goals were garbage goals, as the saying goes, but they still count. And then the overtime, so it had to, the puck bounced a different way, the outcome would have been different. Toronto was outplayed in both games, and the Leafs know it, and Leaf fans know it. But again, all that matters is the scoreboard. It doesn't matter if you were outplayed or outshot. It's who put more pucks in the net. And in the end of the day, that was the Leafs. So full credit to them for pulling out victories when they got outplayed. But I did manage to get a room full of people chanting golf, Leafs, golf, golf, Leafs, golf. Come on, that's a classic. And that one for years. And Leafs, I'm going to say it again because it is playoffs. Leafs is an acronym for losers even after 50 seasons. We're rapidly approaching 60.
Oh.
Come on, it's funny.
Poor Leaf fans.
You got to rib each other. It's
poor
playoff
Leaf fans. Oh my God. Okay.
Well, I'm on the Jets bandwagon right now.
Yeah.
So.
Listen, I would not be sad at all if the Jets took it all. Would not be sad at all.
Oh, I'd be very happy if they did. Realistically, I did. Look, realistically, I thought maybe Toronto can lose to Ottawa. Ottawa could make it to round 2. I did not see Ottawa making it past round 2. And that's realistic. And more than anything else, it's beating Toronto for Ottawa is like almost like winning the Stanley Cup in many ways when it comes to the playoffs.
That's it. Right? We're done. That's enough for us. We're good.
We did what we came to achieve.
I love it.
So yeah.
All right, and we have a little cartoon because Theo Boudakis decided to have the Stanley Cup appear in his most recent cartoon, and well, this one gets it starts good and it gets a little dark.
I don't. Okay, hang on. Let me pull it up here. Just give me a sec because. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Well, good on you. This is a good one. I've been in the U.S. Bring me home, Canada. ICE at an El Salvadorian prison because you never know what could happen as they cart the Stanley Cup into an El Salvadorian prison. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well done, Theo. Much appreciated.
Ooh. Yeah. One that you blend two things and make people feel slightly uncomfortable. Way to go. Way to go. And in other hockey news, Kits and Cubs, the PWHL has announced one of its 2 expansion teams, and the team will be going to Vancouver.
That was announced yesterday morning, actually.
Yes.
Well, it would have been almost afternoon here when it was
yes
because of the time. Morning in
Yeah.
BC is usually around noon in Ontario. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, they will begin play next season. So that's good. Now the decision had been rumored for weeks. I did hear some buzz before that it was going to be Vancouver, and it was finally confirmed at a press conference in downtown Vancouver as in yesterday morning, as Mr. Grizzly said, but Vancouver time, of course. The official announcement was made by players from a local girls under 11 hockey team who crowded the podium waving signs saying they want a PWHL team in their city. Quote, "You've shown a remarkable commitment to growing the game of hockey," Amy Shearer, the PWA's executive vice president of business operations, told the crowd gathered in Vancouver on Wednesday. Quote, "I think the last stat I saw from BC Hockey was the girls and boys registration is just about 50-50. That's huge, and BC Hockey's efforts have been huge in growing the game. We want to help build and continue that momentum that you've already started." So Vancouver was been chosen as the 7th franchise after an 8-month process that saw expansion bids from groups in more than 20 cities. And the league is talking about adding a second expansion team, which would bring the number of teams to 8, but they haven't announced which city would get to that team yet. Quote, "There are multiple other cities in contention that we're still working through, so we're hopeful that we will have an announcement in the future about a second expansion team for next year," Shearer told CBC Sports in an interview. Yes, Mr. Grizzly.
Well, they're going to be playing at the Pacific Coliseum, which is the former home of the Vancouver Canucks from 1970 to 1995 before they moved into, I don't know what it's called this week. Is it still GM Place?
I
have no
think
idea.
so. I don't know for sure. That's the last name I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. And it changed. In 2010, they had to change the name of it because General Motors was not an official sponsor of the Olympics.
Ah,
Changed the name of the rink
yes.
for that time period. I can't remember what they called it. Do you remember what they called it?
Yeah.
I honestly can't remember.
I don't know. I think it's called the
Anyway,
Rogers
yeah,
Arena now.
it might be okay. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's been used for quite a few films. It's been a stand-in for Madison Square Garden in the movie Miracle,
Okay.
as well as Slam Dunk Ernest. I guess one of the Ernest movies. He was in the NBA, I guess. The dog show scenes from Best in Show were filmed at the Coliseum. Final shot of the first look trailer for the Nintendo Switch was filmed there. The television show A Million Little Things has used the arena to film scenes that are taking place in TD Garden. And the concert scene at the end of the 2001 film Josie and the Pussycats was filmed at the Coliseum. So there you go.
They called it Canada. They
Some bit
called
of
it
trivia.
Canada Hockey Place during the Olympics.
Right.
So
There you go.
Ah,
I couldn't remember exactly what it was. I just remember that because General Motors was not an official sponsor, they had to drop the
right.
name. So for the time being, but I guess it is Rogers
Yeah,
Arena
it is.
now. Rogers isn't that the Air Canada Center? No, that's Scotia now, right? In Toronto, the Air Canada Center is now known as Scotiabank Place or
Again, I
Scotia
don't know.
Center. Scotiabank is the title sponsor. Yeah, and Ottawa is the Canadian Tire Center after years of being Scotia. And
Right.
what was it before that? I can't remember. It started out as
It
something
started out
else,
as
and
the
then it
Palladium,
became
and then
very
it was the
quickly
Corral Center, and then after that, I don't know.
Corral Center. Yes, for very quickly. It was the
Yeah.
Palladium for, I don't even think the first full season. I think Corral bought into sponsorship by December, if memory
Yeah.
serves.
And then the other bit of news that we have, record-breaking news, is, but this one's not hockey, is that the inaugural match of, I think it's the Northern Soccer League. They call it the NSL, yes, because I wanting to call it the Canadian Women's Soccer League, but I think it actually has a name. The Northern Soccer League was held on the 16th, with the Vancouver Rise hosting the Calgary Wild at BC Place. The first goal in league history was a penalty kick scored at the 22nd minute by Quinn, gold medalist from our women's soccer team. And it was 1-0 victory, and the announced crowd was 14,018. So the people showed up. It's good stuff. Because it's very exciting time for women's sports, particularly women's professional sports, and because now there's, again, right, if you don't see it, you can't be it. And all of a sudden, it's a women's hockey league, Northern Soccer League, WNBA team coming to Toronto. Like, let's bring it on. let's bring it on. Let's have more sports. Just ah, I like it. I just like it. I like it and I like that the people are jumping in because the argument was always like, "Oh, nobody want to watch the women's play." And it's like, yeah, we do. Actually, we really do. So good competition is good competition, right? And sports,
Indeed.
whether sports on TV like the Olympics are the ultimate in reality TV. So I mean, it's just like just again, if you play and you're good, somebody's going to want to watch. It's just that simple. So I'm glad that finally eyes have opened up. Let's bring a volleyball league. Let's bring let's do it all, man. Let's do it all. All right, kids and cubs. A little look at the polls before we go a little further. Not much movement. Again, there is some movement, which is kind of interesting, but it's um, I've noticed that over the last couple of days, it's when 338 shows a little bit of a narrowing, then the poll tracker shows a little bit of widening, and vice versa. It's almost like one inhales and the other exhales. So they're just trading. But yeah, everything is still within a bit of a range. 338 seems to be indicating that there is a slight uptick in support for liberals in the final days as you're going up to the end of it, because I've seen 4 consecutive days, I believe it is, of a slight uptick. Now, again, not major, all of it within the margin of error, of course, um, but still, uh, you know, the trend was down. So if I'm looking at the odds of an election outcome, it was under majority at the beginning of the campaign, and that went really high. It was like over the 90%, whatnot, and it was going down and down and down. It was hitting about 70%, and now it's up to or 69% or something like that, and it's back up to 72. Right? It's just been going up just a little bit. The odds of winning the most seats gone up a little bit over the past couple of days after a dip. Not as high as it was at the peak of the campaign or the height of the liberal popularity in the campaign, but still noticeably good. And in terms of the seat projection over the last 2 days, it's been up. So it's now showing 188 for the Liberals and 123 for the Conservatives. The Conservatives have been showing slightly down, 2 downticks for the last 2 days. Le Québécois, a little downtick. So maybe we're hitting the maximum of the gain that Blanchet got near the end. NDP still getting a little rise, it seems, there. So maybe the final push is working. I know that the NDP is going to be spending a lot of time in BC in the final days of the campaign to try to do as much as they can there because that's where I think half of their seats are. So it's their best chance to maintain their party status. And of course, because BC seems to be a little bit more of a fight in certain areas because the vote there is very regionally distributed in the province. So there are a couple, despite the fact that when you're looking at the top line number, it looks like the NDP is very out. There are certain ridings where the NDP is particularly strong. They have a good incumbent, where there are three-way races that can allow a surprise to slip up the middle. So, for example, Elizabeth May's riding, she's in a really dead heat with the Conservative that's there. So it just depends on whether or not there will be some strategic voting to make a rise to the top or something else will happen. And then there's another riding, what would normally be, and this almost all of this is on Vancouver Island, where there would be a Liberal and New Democrat split. But if a little bit of vote, the Conservatives are strong enough that if the NDP bid to get more votes at the end, because, they're making it a given that Carney's going to win, then if people buy into that, that could actually lead to the Conservatives slipping up, right? So, and there's other ridings where it works that way for the NDP as well. If the Conservative and Liberal vote gets a little close, then the NDP can slide up. So that's where they're going to be hanging around a lot. And it seems that, like I said, in the final days, the Jagmeet Singh strategy is working for him a little bit. Just will it be enough to save the furniture there? All right. And last but not least, take a little look at the markets, because Donald Trump has been all over the place over the last few days, making the market move a lot with his mouth. But it seems that for the moment, things are pretty decent. A little bit of a mixed day in the Asia Pacific region. Nothing going up or down more than 1% either way. Same thing in Europe. Um, Nothing going up or down more than 1% either way. And for the Americans, the projected open is looking at a better day here. Up 1% for the Dow, over 1.5% for the S&P, and up 2.5% for the Nasdaq. So we'll see if that will translate to a good day. It was a pretty decent day yesterday on the North American markets, despite Trump being all over with regard to the chair of the Federal Reserve and all that other stuff. I'm seeing that Mr. Grizzly is completely frozen on my screen, but active in YouTube. So, Mr. Grizzly, if you got anything before we move to the other stuff to bring.
I'll be
today.
back in a minute. I got to try and fix something here. Everything's gone haywire on my.
Okay, I have a feeling that Mr. Grizzly cannot hear me. All right, kids and cubs, hopefully you can hear me. Mr. Grizzly is muted and freezing. Okay. All right. Yep, he's having some issues there. All right. So let's move on to the actual other part of the show, kids and cubs. Hopefully, Mr. Grizzly will be able to come back so that we can exchange, because this is a little harder alone, and have some clips without commercials as well. But we'll get started. With regard to the Conservatives, it seems that we had our show yesterday where we had Josh Morano come and talk to us about the platforms, and his assessment of the platforms seems to be a pretty general one when it comes at least to the Conservative platform. It seems that the general consensus out there is that it is a hot, sticky maple syrup mess. It's just a nightmare. And there have been responses to it from the conservative and liberal pundits, and from you know people in industry and people from the union world, and you know people from the business world, people from um, uh, who like to analyze these things, like the institute that former parliamentary budget officer Kevin Page is now the president of, the Institute of Fiscal Studies and Democracy at the University of Ottawa. Um, and the general consensus is that this is not it's not particularly great, and we get a sense that it is not particularly great because in the process of making the announcement of his platform, Pierre actually built in a distracting subject. And we have Paul Wells here that's talking about that a little bit in a piece. And it's titled, "Why is Pierre Poilièvre covering up the coming U.S. Civil War?" We go, whoa, there's a title. Hold on. Paul Wells says, "I want to begin by emphasizing that my headline is satirical. There's no particular reason to expect a second U.S. Civil War, even though this Canadian government report from Prime Minister Carney's own department," with an asterisk there, says U.S. ideological division, says, quote, "U.S. ideological divisions, democratic erosion, and domestic unrest escalate, plunging the country into civil war. The report received coverage in international media, including this piece in Political headlined, quote, Canada's big worry, a U.S. Civil War. The report came from Policy Horizons Canada, a what-if shop that's been operating in the Privy Council office, the central coordinating hub, whoops, scratch that, has been operating in Canada's federal bureaucracy for several years. And the asterisk that I told you about says update. Tuesday evening, a truly surprising number of public service watchers have informed me that the Policy Horizons Canada has for several years operated out of Employment and Social Development Canada, not the Privy Council office. I was quoting Pierre, who was quoting the mistaken original news story. This will be slightly funny, as you'll see, because Poilièvre used to be the Minister of Employment and Social Development Canada when he claimed to be the housing minister, and therefore, theoretically, the place's boss. So he should know. Policy Horizons Canada exists to generate scenarios about all sorts of possible futures, bluntly, to make shit up, as a means of stretching imagination in government. Pierre Poilièvre certainly knows that because in 2018, Aaron Woodrick, who today is working for Poilièvre as policy lead for the National Conservative Campaign, wrote a column demanding that Policy Horizons Canada be shut down. Quote, a bureaucrat talking shop that delivers no product and has no measurable impact is a very bad use of scarce tax dollars and reinforces the worst stereotypes of government as a bloated beast that delivers poor value for money, Woodrick wrote. And I'm making a little aside here. No, a group that does tabletop exercises to imagine the worst possible scenarios and to see whether or not we have the stuff to beat them, that is not a useless
No, it is not.
shop that delivers no product and has no measurable impact.
I figured out what the technical problem was here. It wasn't Restream. And it technically was sort of my computer, but not entirely. My computer is connected to Wi-Fi and a LAN physical cable connection. The physical cable had come out of the switch underneath the desk. So I'm looking at it and it's like, where'd my IP address go? Oh, okay. So it's fixed now. So
Excellent.
I apologize. Yeah, it's look, you can do this on Wi-Fi, but you want to have a physical connection for this because we're trying to do it in give you the best quality audio and visual experience we can.
Yes, I do.
So
I'm connected the same way at this end as well.
Yeah, physical and wireless. So you have a backup if one goes down, the other one goes. But trying to upstream on Wi-Fi doesn't always work out very well. And so
All
we're
right.
good now.
So let's continue on with Mr. Wells. They're saying it has no value. That was their attitude about this thing, right? Has delivers no product, has no measurable impact. It's like it's preparing you for making sure that you're prepared for worst case scenarios. Of course. Anyway. And yet on Tuesday in Woodbridge, Ontario, Poilièvre paused from introducing the Conservative National Platform to quote from this report from the suddenly rehabilitated Policy Horizons Canada. So it's fair to ask if he's pounding the table demanding more attention for one bit of pure speculation, one has to wonder why he's not preoccupied with the looming U.S. Civil War. So again, they were discrediting Policy Horizons Canada, but now they're drowning, so they need this report from the Privy Council office. Oh, sorry, ESDC. Right? This report. We studied this. There's a report. No, it's tabletop exercises. And then what's the worst kind of shit that we can imagine? What did we see? So not actually a report on what the threat is. Right? So he's taking this thing now. And he's going. So here's what happened Tuesday morning in Woodbridge. The Conservatives spent a decade dismissing Justin Trudeau as a drama teacher, but Trudeau's got nothing on Pierre's little theater. At a putatively solemn moment, the release of his plan for the government he's wanted to lead since he was 14, the Conservative leader paused to indulge in a little cheap scaremongering for the benefit of the most credulous listeners. Video of the whole media availability is archived here, and I will put the story up. But I can actually send you the link here, Mr. Grizzly, in the chat, and we can put up what it is that Mr. Wells is actually writing about here. So,
yeah, that's not a clickable link.
If you just remove the URL.
I see it. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So Mr. Wells quotes Pierre Poilièvre saying what I guess is in the video here. Quote, "It is a very dangerous future if the Liberals get their fourth term," Poilièvre intoned solemnly. And this isn't just my words, it's Mark Carney's own government department.
Do we have a start time on this?
I think you just... Oh,
it's 54 minutes.
It's the whole thing. Okay,
Yeah,
then yeah,
not a
no,
clip.
it didn't give us start time. Unfortunately, I
Okay.
thought it was just the snippet from it.
Yeah,
All right. It's a very dangerous future if the Liberals get their fourth term, Poilièvre intoned solemnly. And this isn't just my words. It's Mark Carney's own government department. The government department, he's been leader for 9 days before. Okay. Yeah. Just a week ago, we learned that one of the departments of the government, the Privy Council Office, Employment and Social Development Canada, had made some very depressing predictions about the way the country is heading after a decade of Liberal rule. No, they weren't predictions. They were, if the worst thing happened, what could be the worst thing that happened? Just a week ago, the report was published on January 7th, coincidentally a day after Justin Trudeau announced his pending resignation. What happened a bit more than a week ago was that the independent news outlet Blacklock's reporter published an account of the report, thus attracting the attention of the Western Standard and the Toronto Sun. Quote, "I'm going to quote directly from this Liberal report," Poilièvre said, his voice grave. It's not a Liberal report. Poilièvre also didn't quote the part where the report said, quote, "The content of this document does not necessarily represent the views of the Government of Canada or participating departments and agencies." Anyway, he said about reading the parts he liked, without the caveats. Quote, "In 2040, owning a home is not a realistic goal for many. People may lose faith in the Canadian project altogether. It will lead to a mental health crisis." Poilièvre paused to emphasize. And this is a quote. I'm quoting from the government here. If I had said this myself, you would have said this was outlandish, but it's the government's own predictions about where things are headed right now. Interesting frame he put on that. He read on. People may start to hunt, fish, and forage on public lands and waterways because they can't afford groceries no more. He landed on forage nice and hard to emphasize the outrage of it. Poilièvre paused again. Quote, "This isn't my prediction. This is where the country is headed if we continue down the Liberal track." Poilièvre returned with some reluctance to discussing his party's own electoral platform. The time for questions and answers from a small number of journalists selected in advance by the Conservative campaign staff followed. Eventually, it was Joe Warmington's turn. The Toronto Sun columnist couldn't really concentrate on the Conservative platform because he was so concerned about the Policy Horizons Canada paper. Quote, "That is the most negative thing in my 40 years in journalism that I've ever heard about in Canada," he said. "I don't see it in too many places in the media." Well, that's just the thing, Poilièvre agreed. What's wrong with the media? Asleep at the switch. We're only 15 years away from Liberal foraging. I think you're absolutely right, Poilièvre said. I am shocked. This is not an interest group or an opinion columnist or even a think tank that has put out this report. And it is not even just a government department. It is the Prime Minister's personal department. No. I think somebody needs to ask Mark Carney, has he seen it? His department wrote the report. The Conservative leader was really working himself up now. Why this isn't blazing the front pages of every news outlet in my country right now is beyond me. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It blows my mind. It's unbelievable because it's not true.
Well, that once again, we can politely say he stretched the truth, but the fact is he lied through his teeth again. It's so pathetically bad. If the man is speaking, he's lying. And here's the one that kills me. What does it say on the podium he's standing in front of in this video clip I'm going to air in a second, sir? What is it? What is that word written across the front of the podium?
Change. A change.
Yes. What is it conservatives are most opposed to in this world?
Change.
Let's listen to this claptrap for a moment or two, shall we? Let me make sure the volume is up full here, and yeah, just have a listen.
Just before that, you mentioned about this report out of the Privy Council.
Yeah.
Now, as a crime reporter, if you will, when I hear something like that, I cannot believe what I've heard. And it's such a stark contrast to what you talked about in your platform. But I do want to go back, if you can address that, how that's going to help fix it. But that is the most negative thing in my 40 years in journalism that I've ever heard about Canada. I don't see it too many places in the media, and I think it can't be glossed over. So I'd like to talk about that and how you're going to fix that if you win on next week.
I think you're absolutely right. I'm shocked that, like, this is not an interest group or an opinion columnist or even a think tank that has put out this report. It is, and it is not even just a government.
Before he continues, I need to interrupt here for a second to let everybody know that's watching or listening that the government does stuff like this all of the time.
Yup.
There's a reason for it. It's be prepared if something like this happens. You have to come up with worst case scenarios and how you would approach it. This is not new. And since COVID, we've been much more diligent in looking at every possible scenario that could be played out. This is what a adult government does. And this guy's trying to spin it into some bizarre story. What an arse.
Government department. It is the Prime Minister's personal department. Like, I think somebody has to ask Mark Carney, has he seen this report? His department wrote it. And what they are anticipating on the current trajectory is a total meltdown, a societal breakdown in Canada if we stay on the current track. Why this isn't blazing the front pages of every news outlet in the country right now is beyond me. Look, it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like, it blows my mind. What they're actually saying is that, I'm just going to read some of these. More people, this is for the future. It's not enough for Mr. Carney to say, oh, well, the last 10 years is in the past, forget about it. Stop bothering me about the past, he will say. This is the predicted future his department foresees for Canada. More people may struggle to...
No, it is not. This is a possible scenario of what could happen, and they have to be prepared for it. What a lying hunk of human fecal matter.
To afford rent, bills, or groceries. The resulting stress could worsen mental health challenges. This would increase demand on social services. In 2040, upward social mobility is almost unheard of in Canada. Hardly anyone believes that they can build a better life for themselves or their children through their own efforts. Many worry about sliding down the social order. In 2040, owning a home is not a realistic goal for many. Inequality between those who rent and those who own has become a key driver of social, economic, and political conflict. In 2040, pursuing a post-secondary education is no longer considered a reliable path to social mobility. Fewer young people choose post-secondary education, and those who do see it less as a path to a successful career than a way to reinforce their membership in the, quote, elite. That's not my words. That's the government's words. The reports paints a terrifying picture of a spiral of economic depression and cost inflation. People may lose faith in the Canadian project, it says. It forecasts that this may trigger people to, quote, emigrate to jurisdictions where they perceive upward social mobility or other higher standards of living are easier to obtain. If young workers leave, it may become harder to pay for our social programs for the older people in the country. And then this last line, it staggers me, that because groceries are expected to become so expensive, according to Mr. Carney's top government department, people may start to hunt, fish, and forage on public lands and waterways. Like, it is just hard to believe when you read these words that this is about Canada. This is exactly why I'm in politics, to reverse this, to give people back the promise of this.
It is not a plan, you chowderhead. It is a possible scenario of things that could play out. And how would the government adapt to it? This guy is acting like it's written in stone, and like this is what is going to occur. This is what the government wants to occur. This is what... No! Jesus! What a
It's the-
fucking idiot.
It's the
country.
plan.
And we know what to do. We know how to get there. We have to unleash a plan for change, a plan
What's the plan?
that will cut people's taxes so their hard work pays off, that will remove bureaucracy so we can build over 2 million homes, that will lock up the violent criminals, that will unleash our resources to generate a $500 billion of extra economic growth, that will fund schools and hospitals and opportunity for our people. That's what's at stake. That's what change means.
All right. That's enough out of him.
Yeah. Well, look at this from Joanne. I don't want to mess up your surname, Joanne, so I'll just say Joanne A. Just saw a headline in the MSN clips. Even the National Post is explaining that Pierre Poilièvre's take was wrong on this.
Yep. Right. So this is again that car that had that accident in Buffalo was a terrorist thing, and it was Justin Trudeau's fault. Oh my God! Expanding the frame, twisting, torquing, making it the worst thing. Like Katavi here, he likes instilling fear.
Yeah, so what he's trying to do. It's exactly what he's trying to do.
It's right in the theme with Canada's broken, right?
Yeah.
You won't find a job till 2040, and the water will curve your spine, and whatever. Right? He's closing with this. So he's sitting there and he's going, "Hey, everybody, you know that cost." Okay. Hey, everybody, you know that costed platform that I promised you was coming? I've got it for you today. So let me talk to you about my costed platform. Today, we're going to make sure that we do this, and I'm going to cut your taxes. Oh, but hey, did I ever tell you about that report I read? Oh my God, it's so dark and spooky. All these bad things are going to happen. Oh yeah, the world is coming to an end, and it's the government's own report. Came right from the Prime Minister's office. Did you see that? My God, somebody, why is this not all over the news? Why is everybody talking about that? Because if everybody's talking about that, they won't be talking about what's coming next here. Hey,
You know, the astonishing thing to me is the amount of intelligent people that I know that believe that shit. They believe that this is what Mark Carney has planned for us in 2040. 2040? That's 15 years from now.
but they don't stop to asking themselves, why the hell does
Number
Pierre
one.
Poilièvre want us to talk about this rather than his?
Yeah. Joke of a platform.
What's that doing in there in your platform release?
What was the
Because-
platform? 30 pages and 17 of them were photos?
4 had full photos, but there were 17 photos in all.
Oh, okay. Sorry. My
Yes.
apologies.
Yes. That's just to be precise. But it's still that's a lot of photos.
Yeah.
30 pages, 17 photos.
Because they have no content.
Mm. Mm.
When was the last time you saw a platform with that many photos? Have you ever
Stephen
seen
Harper.
a platform with photos other than the cover photo?
Stephen Harper.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the elections that he was trying to get by without a platform whatsoever. Like this, he was just kept on saying, like they were asking him, and he was just like saying nothing. And then I think he got
Slogans.
it like 2 or 3 days before the election, and it was like pages, and it had like so many pictures of him, so many pictures. It's like this is not everything that Pierre is doing has been done.
Mm-hmm.
He borrows everything. There's articles out there right now saying that his whole policy and costing right now lifted right from Liz Truss.
Yeah.
I told you this over a year and a half ago.
Yes, you did. Yeah, you
His
said.
tax policy was going to be lifted from Liz Truss, except in Canada, he was going to be able to get away with it because the economic position from which we were starting was much better than the UK's. The UK was so far down the hill when they did that as soon as they did that, they saw the disaster coming immediately. We would have been able to hide it for a year or two.
Well, the amount of people I have seen online reposting the story about how Liz Truss says Mark Carney is terrible for the economy, I'm like, Liz Truss, she had the worst designed economic plan in the UK history and was prime minister for what? I think I've belched longer than that. I've definitely had indigestion that lasted longer than she did. The head of lettuce lasted longer than she did. I'm like, come on, you're going to listen to this woman? She doesn't know what she's doing. He copied her plan and it's horse shit, and everyone knows it.
Oh, shit. Sorry, that one caught me by surprise.
44 days. Come on. Come on.
Lettuce Liz. Lettuce Liz. All right. So, yeah. It's you know your costing is terrible if while you are introducing it, you yourself introduce the noise story to distract away from your actual platform. And that's what that was. And that's what Joe Wormington was, right? Because we know all the thing about this most transparent campaign ever. Only 4 questions. People ask around or say, hey, maybe you would like to ask this question. And then you got Joe Wormington who turns around and says, well, as a crime reporter, now you would think as a crime reporter, specifically, well, you'd be really into like making sure that you get the evidence. Like, were the fingerprints actually there? Were they actually on the door, or were they actually on the door handle? Because that might matter. Was there one set of prints or was there 2? You might want to get those little details, right? If you're a crime reporter. But he sees this thing and says, oh my God, I can't believe it. I haven't seen anything like that in my 40 years. And as a reporter, it doesn't push your button to say, hey, what is this thing? Maybe I should go look at it. No, you just take that and you go, oh, I can't believe it. And then you run to the press conference and you validate it, but you're a reporter. Upon seeing something you've never seen. Come and tell me this is not a planted question. Mr. Poilièvre, I want to bring you back to the thing that you were mentioning when you were talking about your platform that wasn't about your platform, because, I mean, well, I just can't let that go. It shocked me so much. Please tell me more about why I should be shocked. I'm sorry. It's so bad. It's so bad. Oh, God. But as Mr. Grizzly says, there's some people who eat like a Reese's peanut butter cup. They're just eating it up. It's so bad.
So I gotta show you something here that just makes me chuckle, because this is a momentary interruption here for something. I was doing the math on it to double check. So this is just from Truth Social, Donald Trump at 7:30 this morning. Gas and grocery prices are way down, just like I said they would be. Eggs are plentiful and down 87%. Nice. So I just checked the highest egg prices in the U.S., which was on March 3rd, 2025. They were $8.17 for a dozen eggs. Basing that price, $8.17, if we marked it down 87%, that would be $1.06.
I'm gonna guess that's a Pierre Poilièvre type number.
Well, yeah, because the egg prices are still sky high, apparently. Let's see, how much are eggs in the USA? The average price of a dozen grade A large eggs in the U.S. was $5.90 in February 2025. This is an increase of 19.2% from $4.95 in January. The price of eggs has been higher than ever before, with the previous peak at $4.82. April 10th, they were $5.90. What is the price of 12 eggs? I can't seem to get a current price point for today. If somebody in the U.S. watching or listening wants to give us what the current price is, but they're definitely not down 87%.
So you know what he did here? He used one of Pierre Poilièvre's tricks.
Yeah.
He saw how much the price of eggs went down a certain week.
Mm-hmm.
So they went down 15 cents last week. Well, this week they went down a certain part. This week they went down another 13.05 cents. That's down 87%.
Right.
From last week.
87% from the previous week.
Yeah. From the 15
let's
cents
put
was
the
down
numbers
the
into
previous
context. Yeah, put the numbers into context. I brought them way down. It dropped by 13 cents.
Yeah. That's probably how he got his 87.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. So, listen, I used to work on the other side of this, man. So
been-
it's like that's yeah, but that's
Oh my
really dishonest
God.
spending. Okay.
From Sandy. Sandy's in the UK right now,
Yeah.
and she's saying, my friend said that she paid $14 for a dozen eggs 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Yikes.
Yikes. All right.
$14. I can go have a huge breakfast at the Elgin Street Diner for less than that.
Yep.
That's bacon, eggs, toast, home fries, coffee, or tea. You make your choice. It comes with the meal.
Yep. That's
Rye
$14,
toast, by the way.
That's $14 for eggs, and nobody cooks them for you.
Walmart. Okay, here's Walmart Great Value eggs, 1 dozen, $6.34 US.
Okay, that's a little more reasonable.
This is still a lot
It's
more
still
than
a lot, but
dude. I pay less than that at the Quickie.
Oh no, I know that. Yeah.
Wow.
All right. So back to Mr. Wells. Several weeks ago, I wrote a retrospective of Poilièvre's life that quoted an opinion article he wrote for the Calgary Herald when he was only 17 about a change to pension rules that wasn't generating as much of a backlash as he'd hoped. Why hadn't the pension change provoked a storm of opposition, he wrote, especially in the media? A few readers were cross with me for dragging a teenage Poilièvre into a discussion of his adult choices. Fair enough.
Fair point. Yeah.
My justification was that I suspected he hadn't changed and never will.
And he hasn't.
Today, we saw evidence of that. Why aren't the front pages blowing up a storm of opposition to this 2,000-word stack of hypotheticals from government skunkwonks, whose handiwork has been dismissed by the National Post's chief whimsy columnist as a bunch of unlikely scenarios? So there you go. He's even referencing the National Post.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I should emphasize that downward social mobility is absolutely a possible outcome of lousy fiscal policy and a fair subject of political debate. It was a central topic of my interview with Pierre 2 years ago. It was a preoccupation of the Martin Prosperity Institute at the University of Toronto a decade ago. It's been studied in the UK, France, and elsewhere, but most of the things Policy Horizon Canada studies are things anyone can imagine happening in some corner of the multiverse. The disruptions on the Horizon paper that mentioned the possibility of a U.S. Civil War, for instance, included these other scary possibilities. Emergency response is overwhelmed. Extreme weather events such as fires, floods, tornadoes, and hurricanes are frequent and severe. The world is in a perpetual state of emergency and unable to respond adequately and sustainably. Billionaires run the world. Extremely wealthy people use their platforms, firms, foundations, and investments to shape public policy, imposing their individual values and beliefs and bypassing democratic governance principles. Homemade bioweapons go viral. A trend emerges whereby individuals can easily create cheap but powerful bioweapons with readily available technology and minimal infrastructure. World War breaks out. Tensions between the world's powers escalate as new rivalries, alliances, and blocs emerge. The fight over natural resources and supply chains propel great powers into a world war, forcing other countries to pick sides. The Policy Horizons Canada people assign only the vaguest guesses about the probabilities of each of these scenarios for the simple reason that they're guesses. But one plausible future that the little shop thought deserved its own report was the possibility of, quote, a crisis of certainty. Given the Conservative leader's little display of theater in Woodbridge, this is worth quoting at some length. Quote, it is getting harder to distinguish between what is real and what is fake on the internet. The strategies people use to evaluate the reliability of traditional print and broadcast media do not always work with today's information technologies. These technologies enable new forms of expression and make it easy to create powerful forms of mis- and disinformation. Quote, yeah.
May I interrupt for a moment?
Sure thing, sir.
We have some breaking news. Terminal 1 of Toronto Pearson International Airport was shut down on Thursday morning amid unconfirmed reports of a shooting. OPP traffic section said a post on Twitter that roads leading up to Terminal 1 departures at Pearson Airport were closed due to a police investigation. Please avoid the area. Heavy police presence, roads closed in the surrounding area. Travelers say dozens of cops pulled up with rifles. So it's a developing story. That's all I know right now. I just thought I'd break that.
Thank you for that. Yes.
You're
So where are people supposed to stay away from, Mr. Risley?
The Terminal 1 of Pearson, which is the largest terminal. That's the big semicircular one. Terminal 2 doesn't exist anymore. They've torn that down. There's just Terminal 1, Terminal 3, and then an infield terminal, which is an extension of 3. I don't know if they're building a terminal 2 at some point in time or not, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
So Paul Wells ends with, many more people may struggle to tell the real from fake, the report says. This opens public debates up to, quote, new vulnerabilities to attacks from malicious actors. Indeed, quote, authoritarian or anti-government movements may grow when trust is low. To me, this is no more certain future than the global war or the homemade bioweapons. All that's needed to avoid it is an outbreak of good faith and reasonably minimal standards in our democratic discourse. One thing we could hope, for instance, is that a 45-year-old man aspiring to high elected office would resist the urge to engage in the cheapest flim-flam to distract from the fact that his numbers don't add up. Paul Wells, not exactly a liberal cheerleader here.
No. No, he is not. A smart and learned man, I should say.
Yeah, but not someone who breaks out the pom-poms.
No, definitely not.
All right, Mr. Grizzly, if we can go to a block B with the first clip.
Yeah, just pulling it up here.
Okay. This, I want you to take a look at it, Kits and Cubs, because it's from Power and Politics, the day I think the platform was released. And it is the conservative pundit, I believe Kate Harrison is her name, and the liberal pundit, Michelle, and I always mispronounce her last name, Cardialo or something. My mistake. And it's their first take on it after being asked the question by David Cochran. I want you to listen to both takes, and then when Michelle is done, I want you to is talking, especially as she gets near the end. I want you to pay attention to Kate Harrison's face.
It's good to see you all. Kate, I'd like to start with you. The deficit numbers in the Conservative plan are much lower than the deficit numbers in the Liberal plan, but there's a difference in how they do this in that the Liberals booked no revenue from economic investments they're making. The Conservatives book revenue from economic investments that they're making. You heard the criticism there from Mark Carney. What's your sense of where things stand now that the platforms are out?
Yeah, well, there are certainly a lot of contrasts to be seen on that deficit number, 70% reduction for the Conservatives compared to Carney and the Liberals' platform. I'd also point out, I heard the bloc leader talking there about cuts. It's $14 billion per year. Over 5 years, that'll be about $70 billion. When you consider that the operating budget of the Government of Canada is about $558 billion, $14 billion is far from draconian. So this is not massive cuts. I think it's pragmatic and realistic in order to find some efficiencies within the government. In terms of looking at future revenues, to me, this is betting big on Canada's resource economy. The absence of that from the from the Carney platform, perhaps authored by the Trudeau team, but from the Carney platform, I think speaks to where they may sit on resource development and how much they plan or don't plan to actually move those natural resources. So, independent economists have said that this is actually reachable and might even present an underestimate of what is possible in terms of the potential of extrapolating resources. So I think it's fair to consider that in calculations and assign that you can grow and reduce spending at the same time.
Yeah, Philip Cross, former chief economist at StatsCan, Tim Sargent, former associate deputy minister at finance, are the experts that have validated the Conservative platform. But, Michelle, I've seen some people say that essentially this counts on the rate of GDP growth doubling. Well, and there's some pretty big revenue numbers there.
It's for the very reason that we have never in Canada done this kind of math before when doing our projections. It's because the bond markets don't buy it, and it's because our credit lenders don't buy it either, because it's hocus pocus. And we're talking, this platform is based on this idea that we're going to have this incredible growth at a time when the world is on the precipice of a recession, and Donald Trump is like making the markets crash every second day. And so the suggestion that somehow we are going to buck the trend and that you're going to be able to book all of these fantasy numbers into your planning document, it just doesn't even make sense. And so it's original, and I'll give them points for originality. But let's not forget, yes, there is a lot spent by governments in a year, but of that, 60% goes to healthcare, and 2 transfers to the provinces. And so that brings the actual number down quite a bit in terms of what we actually have per year. And these Doge-style cuts, I think that, I don't often quote Yves Blanchette, but he had it right. It's a very kind of, a third of our spending in terms of foreign aid. Well, that sure sounds like Trump. Getting rid of woke policies, I'm not even sure what that means. But again, that was something that they're kind of going after.
Well, it's interesting. The woke ideology thing is in the Quebec platform released in French, but it's not in the English platform. I don't know if that's a change or if and it's not even in the Quebec section. They do talk about a free speech policy, mostly for the protection of Jewish students on campus, but the woke ideology thing that was in the Quebec platform released in Quebec City is not in the English one.
It'd probably be a question that a lot of people want asked of Pierre Poilièvre if he took any questions.
Ooh, saw that smile at the end, eh?
Yeah.
Questions is like, yeah, he's leaving you out to dry, buddies. Those awkward moments.
You gotta see that again. It's classic.
English one.
It'd probably be a question that a lot of people want asked of Pierre Poilièvre if he took any questions.
Well, she hasn't done it yet.
Kate, I will come back. Francois.
There it is.
I'm really not comfortable with that because I know you're right. Yeah, you got me. My mouth was open.
I live for the awkward moment. So yeah, so that's sort of like where they're sort of positioning, right? Listen, there is not enough lipstick in the world to make this sow look pretty.
No,
okay,
it's
terrible. It's just terrible.
Well, and I love how the one pundit called out, says this is based on fantasy.
Yeah.
Look, the world is on the verge of a global recession thanks to Trump, and this guy has got projections as if it's a pie in the sky, sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows, and something.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my Homer shirt, so.
And there's like no plan really, as Josh told us, to take the steps that we need to take if we're going to diversify away from the United States. This guy that's been complaining throughout the whole election that it was the liberals that made us more dependent on the United States. When they were in power, they did not get an inch of pipeline built to Tidewater. If we talk about diversification just being oil, because it seems to be the only thing that they're interested in, and the current government did. When they say C69, you can't get no new pipelines built, but there is one pipeline. Yes, it was only 8 to 10 kilometers long, but there was one that was approved under C69, so that can't be true. They say we need to export more oil gas. Well, we've got the LNG terminal.
Yeah, that's
coming
a
up.
few billion, that project.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, come on, man. It's like you don't want us to be more dependent from the United States, but you didn't actually plan anything in your budget to make the capital expenses that would be required for us to get the actual product out once you actually got the pipeline. I guess. And then all the money that would be spent to build stuff like the pipeline that you would want. Well, then when Mark Carney says it, you turn around and say, oh my God, it's deflationary spending that will add to inflation. Well, if you don't want to build the ports, and if you don't want to build the rails, and if you don't want to build the pipelines and the gas terminals and the roads to the mining places, then where are you going to make this money, dude? That you say is coming in? Just cutting taxes and red tape will just generate so much more business activity that it's just going to happen on its own?
It doesn't work that way.
With Trump south of us?
What's he doing? What's he doing here? The budget will balance itself, right?
Literally. The
Without
irony.
Without any plan. Without any plan whatsoever. He's trying to.
So.
Ballots don't budget themselves, but isn't that exactly what you're trying to do here?
So this thing gets torched by everyone.
Everyone.
Now here's the coup de grace, Mr. Grizzly. The next one.
I will bring it up. Just bear with me for a second.
Mr. Kevin Page, President and
because
CEO.
I do want to bring in Kevin Page because the Institute of Fiscal Studies and Democracy at the University of Ottawa has crunched the numbers on the party platforms, and their president and CEO, Kevin Page, joins me now to talk about what he found. And Kevin, of course, is a former parliamentary budget officer. So Kevin Page, it's good to see you. Thanks for doing this. And I know you're rushing to get these out the door, so we appreciate you being here, sir.
Good to be with you, David.
All right, so let's start with the Conservative platform because it's the one that is the hottest off the press. They assume that their policies will increase economic activity and create more than $50 billion in new tax revenue. I mean, was it reasonable for them to include that in their math based on what you've looked at?
No. It's pretty much a traditional practice, David, in the financial community, to be aware of what the potential, positive economic impacts could be from, putting in measures, but actually to have them hit a bottom line is sort of to take credit and plan based on, create a lower deficit track. That isn't, it's not a good budgeting practice. So I would say that is a mistake, on the Conservative part.
Okay, so let's go through this because I've just been handed sort of the IFSD fiscal credibility assessment. For the Conservatives, and we'll go through the Liberals right after this because they're the two main contenders for power here, you give them an overall assessment of a pass. Principle 1, realistic and credible economic and fiscal assumptions, pass. Responsible fiscal management, pass. And transparency, good. When I was in school, a pass was pretty good for me. I mean, what should we take from this that it is a pass as opposed to a higher overall assessment? What does that tell us?
Well, I think if in general, I'd say that there's a lot of good things that were done in all the platforms, including the Liberals and the NDP and the Conservatives. And in terms of assumptions, it's clear we know what their planning base is. Mm-hmm. We know that they're working from the parliamentary budget officer's sort of pre-election, pre-tariff impact baseline, so we can work from that. They're articulating challenges, economic and fiscal challenges. And they're highlighting risk with respect to the United States. So we score those. I think it's clear to us, like in this environment. I think it's clear to the electorate that we're dealing with a major crisis, and that's going to create creating enormous economic instability. And I think why the Conservatives get a pass and not a higher rating, a good rating, is that. We don't think they properly take into account the additional risk from the instability that we're starting to experience already, and it's really going to get worse. So, I mean, that's why they get a pass.
Okay, so when we look at the revenue, though, that they've put in there, because it's difficult to do a straight apples-to-apples comparison with the Liberal platform, which, again, we'll get to because they don't book the revenue. When you look at revenue gain from additional homes built, revenue gain from capital gains measures, revenue gain from repealing C-69, clean electric regulations, these things, are those numbers credible or not credible, or is it just their inclusion that you sort of quibble with because it's not standard practice? How should we interpret the critique of that?
I think that there's two issues, David. One is, first, from a transparency perspective, it's fine to see what a party thinks could be the additional economic impact from a certain measure, a deregulation measure, a red tape measure. This is what we think the impact could be on GDP. We don't have a problem with that. I think, again, as I noted, to actually book that, so to speak, so you show a lower deficit track, we do have a problem with that. It's not a standard practice. It hasn't been in Canada for many decades, including past Conservative governments, including Mr. Harper's government. I think there's a major credibility problem with respect to those estimates. You go back to past budgets. I've seen you in these lockups, David. You look at those rules of thumb. 1 percentage point in real GDP growth probably gives you, a positive impact on the deficit on the bottom line of about $5-6 billion. So to actually generate $60 billion in additional revenues from deregulation, from the cutting of red tape over 4 years, that is an excessively high number. And then overlaying that, you're letting it go to the bottom line. So we have a problem with that.
Okay, last question on that. So when we look at the deficit numbers that the Conservatives are projecting, it adds up to about $130 billion, or no, that's the Liberals. Sorry. Even with a combined $131 billion from savings and new revenues, the Conservative platform is projecting a total deficit of about $100 billion over the next 4 years. So how should we judge those numbers? And then I'll move on to what the Liberals have put on the table.
Well, I think we judge those numbers by looking at what's behind them in terms of the assumption that we just talked about, the credibility issue with respect to booking those estimates. there's, in addition, like other parties also have issues there, where other, party platforms are booking what we call efficiency savings. We have, we see over time, and I've been around for many decades, including program review years. We often put out numbers, and we see there's a lot of slippage. And we can look at the conservative platform. Where are they seeing program efficiencies? They're thinking they're going to find $10 billion for the saving 4 years out just on consulting, and like the total number for that number for professional services is about $20 billion. Actually, the management consulting part is quite a bit smaller than that. So I don't think it's possible to wipe all of it out. A lot of those professional services are security services, they're accounting services, they're engineering services. So again, we look at that number. I mean, it's good that from a transparency perspective, the fact that they actually highlight a number, we can see where that is helpful. On the program cuts point of view, sometimes we do see slippages in those numbers, but they are transparent on that. We know there are significant cuts to foreign aid as an example. They're being transparent. We know that they plan to reduce the size of the workforce. We can look at those numbers. Sometimes you do get slippage, but they are being transparent. I think in terms of the amount of deficit, here we are, David. We're probably headed into a recession. Yeah. And we're having one of our major political parties says they can actually reduce the deficit as we head into a period of significant economic weakness. The government spends about $500 billion a year. We're a little over a $3 trillion economy. It's typical. You want governments to actually help stabilize the economy as we go through this instability. Instead, we have a plan actually that tries to reduce the deficit, both relative to the baseline and from an annual, like a year-to-year adjustment. So there's a fiscal stance problem that I think some economists will have to actually, is this the time to try to reduce the deficit, particularly in 2025-26?
Okay. I want to get into the Liberals quickly now, because you've given them an overall assessment of good on all the three principles: realistic and credible economic and fiscal assumptions, good; responsible fiscal management, good; transparency, good. Now, responsible fiscal management, they've got the deficits that are tens of billions of dollars higher than the Conservatives. You give them a pass. So why is a higher deficit platform good and a lower deficit platform only a pass? Explain that gap if you can.
So, in terms of like the deficit tracks in both the Conservatives and Liberals, if you look at the numbers, if you deflate them by the size of the economy, in the Liberal, the Conservative track, which we have some issues with, if you include those assumptions with respect to positive revenue gains, they have the deficit kind of at 1% this year, falling to 0.4% 4 years out. The Liberals have the deficit at 2% this year as a percentage of GDP, falling to about 1.4%. So a higher deficit track in a smaller platform. I think from the point of view where the economy at, the size of the amount of weakness we see in the economy, it's not unusual to see the deficit get a little bit bigger, but in a period of weakness. Right. We saw the 2008 financial crisis. We saw it during COVID. So I think, there's not that much different as a percentage of GDP, 1% to 0.5%, 2% to 1.4%. It's not an enormous difference that I think, bond rating agencies are going to focus on.
But the big difference, Kevin, I guess, in the way the two platforms are presented goes back to where I started this. There is no revenue baked into the fiscal track for the Liberals versus what the Conservatives have done. So Mr. Carney said today that if he had prepared his platform the same way the Conservatives prepared their platform, he'd be showing a surplus by year 4. Is that an accurate and fair statement?
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I don't know that that's true. We didn't look at those sorts of numbers. Some credit to the Liberals. They did have an annex in their platform that did show the multipliers under different situations. Multipliers are like these positive economic benefits. If you spend $1 for capital investment, what might the return be? These returns, could be different depending on how weak or strong the economy is. So they present it, but they make a point, say we don't actually have prudence in this platform, but they do expect to see some positive economic gains from those, additional capital investment, which they are not showing. In fact, they're not even highlighting even as prudence, but they do make mention of it.
Okay, so just one last question, Kevin, before I let you go. So basically, if you stripped the revenue out of the Conservative platform and did it the same the Liberals did, or do revenue in the Liberal platform and the same methodology the Conservatives did, the deficit numbers are actually a whole lot closer together than the gap on first reading because of the different ways of preparation. Correct. Am I correct there?
Yeah, correct. Okay. And I think it's probably fair to say we have we have under Mr. Carney, Prime Minister Carney, the Liberal platform, somewhat of a hard target. They're saying they're going to balance the operating budget, in 2028-29. So it's a hard target that Parliament could hold the Liberals to account. I actually think they'll have a hard time meeting that target. I think the Conservatives, they don't actually have a hard target. They have kind of a fiscal rule saying if we're going to have additional spending, we're going to offset it. And if we're going to raise taxes, we're going to have a referendum. But they don't actually have a hard target, though the Conservatives are showing a much lower deficit track, as you've noted. And that would be consistent with a declining debt to GDP ratio, which is a good practice.
Okay. Kevin Page, we appreciate you. It's a lot of numbers. I think I got the...
Yeah, but real deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, this is so much. Just like difference between 2.5 and 1.6 is really no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? At the end, just what the difference is between a pass and good in this type of assessment. There's a wide gap there. There's not being able to tell us with assurance because they don't do that type of study, whether what Mark Carney said was true. But given that he said that Mark Carney put in actually multipliers, so he actually presented different scenarios. If this thing multiplies 2 times, if it multiplies 3 times, if it multiplies 5 times, like I said, here's where we would be. And if his gets good on all 3 metrics and the other guy gets pass, then maybe his assessment of whether or not if he used it, Pierre's dynamic accounting, apparently, or something like that, what it's called, method, that he would be in a did they say $5 billion surplus? I think it was.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, by the end of the 4th year. So, but actual conservatives don't pre-book gains when they do accounting.
No, absolutely not.
This party is not conservative.
No, they're not. We've been saying that for years. They're the
Like in
Reform
any
Party
way.
under a new name, with pie in the sky ideas that don't translate into reality. And even their ideas aren't even pie in the sky. It's just projections, right?
Right. So
projections
again,
of how they want it to be.
Right. And this is, again, Kevin Page, former parliamentary budget officer. The parliamentary budget office, which is an office created by Stephen Harper.
Yes.
Kevin Page was appointed, like Mark Carney, by Stephen Harper.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loved Kevin Page when he was the parliamentary budget officer.
Yeah, he's a popular fellow.
But, well, we hired him as conservatives, but now he said something nice about liberals, so he's got liberal on him. So now we have to.
Yeah, well, we've seen how they've done this to Mark Carney. They did it to David Johnston. They'll do it to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
See, because, again, they aren't Canadians first. They are conservatives first, and they're not even conservatives. They're Reform Party stalwarts, first and foremost, before anything else. That trumps all other identities.
You know who else they did it to, Mr. Grizzly? Carlos Letao, the former Minister of Finance for the government in Quebec under Philippe Couillard, of course.
You see,
Liberal
because their mentality and their ideology is, if you say something positive about the other side of the aisle, then you are dead to us.
Yes.
Even if it benefits millions of Canadians, you are dead to us because it's our way and our way only, and screw everybody else. And we are the only ones who have good ideas.
You're not a real conservative.
This is the way they think.
That's why they did. Yeah, that's what they did to Doug Ford and Tim Houston. Well, we don't think you're real conservatives. They did it to Legault. That's why they didn't call him after they won.
Yeah.
You're not real conservatives. That's what they did to Mike DeYoung out in BC.
They're not conservatives. They're Reform Party stalwarts. They're Christo-fascist pricks.
Mm-hmm.
Every single last one of them. If there's a single redeeming one of them, a single person in that party that has a redeeming quality, that actually wants to see things done for the benefit of this country, please step forward. I beg of you, get off your backbench, step forward, and tell the Canadian people the damage this man is going to do to this country if he ever becomes elected prime minister. I don't care if you get booted out of the party. It is more important that you take care of the people of this country than your own self-interest. If you've been there long enough, you've already got a pension. If you're a member of parliament, you will be employed when your term is up. You will get a job somewhere as, ironically, a consultant.
Right. So,
step forward. That's all I ask.
Carlos Letao, Minister of Finance, Quebec, under Philippe Couillard, Liberal Party in Quebec, when there was no Conservative Party, really, it was just Federalist against. So, but he had Liberal on him. Carlos Letao offered to help, offered to be a candidate. Pierre didn't want him.
Yeah.
Minister of Finance didn't want him. But regretting that decision now, eh? Nope, we can do it without you. So, yeah, things are not going well for him at all. And then, so that's just the budget stuff. Then other stuff started happening. Now, you've all heard about the ads. We've talked about them. We're going to show them today. So, the first one is the famous golf ad.
Yeah.
we have to go and we have to take a look and see it.
I'm bringing it up here. Just bear with me for a minute.
So, by the way, for those who didn't hear, all the actors in this ad are non-union.
Yeah. Yeah, they insisted on union people for these ads, by the way.
Yeah.
Insisted on it.
How's your son, David?
Well, it's been a tough few years for him. He just can't seem to get ahead.
Yeah, we had to pay for Sarah's down payment last year. Things are tough for her, too.
You know what Mark Carney says.
Come on, do you really think that a fourth Liberal term is going to change anything?
You know, I've been thinking the same thing.
Are we really going to give these clowns a fourth term? I'm voting Conservative. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not even comment on how bad the acting is in that short little commercial, but also the clowns. They called their opponent clowns in an ad for their party. All decorum is right out the fucking window.
Yep. And how about, like, two people are talking. One person goes, well, Mark Carney says, are you going to believe that guy? What can I do with these clowns? That's all the argument you need to change your mind?
Yeah. Yeah.
What does that say about what conservatives think about their voters?
They're stupid.
Now, who does this commercial appeal to demographically?
Supposed to appeal to boomers, but I can tell you that boomers aren't interested in this at all. They really aren't. As evidenced by the fact that lifelong conservatives that I've spoken to recently have told me they are voting, people who live in my riding are voting for the incumbent, which is Yasir Naqvi, which is the Liberal candidate in this riding. So they ain't buying Pierre Poilièvre. They ain't buying what he's selling.
But the demographic that's appealing to right now is a demographic whose vote they think they need.
Clearly.
This is the demographic whose vote they think they need. They don't have this demographic locked up. They feel they need to turn this out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let's see the other ad.
Canada is and always has been our country. And we want Canada to be a true north that is as strong and as free as it can be. In every way that matters, the best country in the world. I said these words as Prime Minister, and they are still true today. I led Canada through the global financial crisis.
No, you didn't.
Today,
Mark Carney
we also
did.
face big challenges, from the Trump administration and the performance of our own economy. The two men running to lead us both once worked for me, and my choice unequivocally is Pierre Poilièvre.
The
Only
sycophant who
Pierre
do
is
what I
putting
tell him.
forward an actual plan
No, he hasn't.
to make life affordable, make our streets safer, and put us in a strong position in dealing with the U.S. Only Pierre will bring change. Please join with me
Hey, I got to ask a question here. Is he in a Faraday cage right now? I think he's doing that from a Faraday cage because he was probably afraid he was going to get struck by lightning from God himself for lying so blatantly like that.
Jeez. Okay, so you will notice, kits and cubs, that in both these ads, someone's missing.
Pierre. He's nowhere to be seen.
The guy who was everywhere is not there. Now, in the first ad, we see who we're appealing to. The second ad, we know who they're appealing to, the people that like Harper and whatnot. Again, if you need Harper to make an ad for you, encouraging people to come out, and there are people that are still not over the Harper decade yet, like it still gives them the shakes, makes them break out into hives, right? Again, that guy on your screen saying vote Pierre is not reaching out across the divide.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to get the people out that the party, well, I mean, Harper shouldn't have to tell you to come out and vote if you really you shouldn't need him, right? Then, and I know it's petty, but I just look at the hands in that ad and the way that they're up, one's up like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I know I'm gonna pay for this one, but it's like through the entire commercial, he's like, control the evil. Control the evil.
Well, the smile at the end reminds me of, do you remember that Little Caesars commercial from years ago when it's an older couple on an aircraft and the cheese was so heavy duty on the pizza that it pulled the plane backwards and she comes out of the lavatory after applying her lipstick, but it snapped back in the air and it's all over her face and she looks at her husband and says, "Is it on straight?" And he gave the same smile that Harper just gave, kind of like, "Oh, that's just terrible. Yeah, it looks great."
So, it's like I just like have this vision of him. It's like, suppress the evil, suppress the evil. And he's doing everything he can to not vote for Pierre. Keep that hand down. Keep that hand down. I know it's petty, but it's like, I'm sorry, you can't put PM Voldemort or Palpatine, both are equally acceptable or good, on that screen, saying vote for this guy. And he's sitting there and he said, like, both of them worked for me, and I choose Pierre. Yeah, that's why you never gave him a financial portfolio, but you named the other guy the governor of the Bank of Canada, right? Back then, you didn't choose Pierre. Back then, you did not unequivocally choose Pierre, buddy. And you will notice also that Stephen Harper never had to come out and make a commercial for Andrew Scheer or Aaron O'Toole.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that likes to present himself as inevitable sure appears to need a lot of help.
Well, he thinks he's Thanos. I am inevitable. And I am Iron Man. That's Mark Carney.
Mm-hmm. And the golf one, the parodies.
Oh,
them going around.
There's a ton of them. We can't show them because some of them are copyrighted. But yeah, if you can find them online, have a look.
My word. So we've got the ads. They're not particularly great. He's gone. And by the way, the other thing that's been happening, Mr. Grizzly, you know when they come and knock at your door and they leave the literature, right? And this has been happening because people have been showing it online to conservative literature.
Okay. Yeah. What's missing from there? Literally, there's a.
Unfortunately, the
sticky.
It's recording. There we go.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I missed you. It's a sticky over Pierre Poilièvre's face.
Yes.
You're not. I've seen a lot of those.
Yeah. Et tu, Brute?
Well, here, you want to know something funny? In my riding, my neighborhood, it's between Liberals and NDP, and it flip-flops federally and provincially. It's Centertown. right? You know, where the occupation was held in 2022. So in my riding, the NDP have come and knocked on my door a few times, and I'm like, okay, I've already voted. Please stop bothering me. The Liberal candidate supporters have been around as well. I said, I've already voted. No need to come by again. I've not seen anything from the Conservatives because they know they haven't got a hope in hell. I finally saw signs for the Green Party candidate just a couple of days ago that took forever to get them up. And I've seen posters on telephone poles, like poles, you know what I mean, for the Future Party, who I didn't know about, that there was a candidate in this riding until, of course, I saw the posters and then I saw it on the ballot. I've already cast my ballot. I did so on Friday. I waited 2 hours to do so and had no problems doing that. So, yeah, my riding is either going to be a Liberal or NDP federally. I don't know who's going to win it. I honestly don't. But it's one or the other. Everybody else is a non-starter in this riding. It's just as simple as that. It's a non-starter. They don't even bother to knock on the doors. They know it's a waste of time. They won't get your vote. So why bother? Centertown has been decided for a long time and has.
Yep, indeed. So now we get to Pierre's platform being a little bit of a gift for Mr. Carney. We have 2 moments of reaction from him to what Mr. Poilièvre put out.
There's a phantom growth that comes from the sky in his platform that arrives and changes his numbers, even though he doesn't have a plan to fight against President Trump. He also has a tax cut, a bring-it-home tax cut that never comes home. It doesn't arrive until year 4 and 5, right? When we see the need of Canadians, our tax cut compared to his plan, I'll give you one number, is 4 times larger this year. Is 4 times larger. These numbers are a joke. We aren't in a joke. We are in the worst crisis of our lives. It takes a serious government. It takes a serious plan. It takes a plan that delivers today. It takes a plan that delivers investment. It takes a plan that grows this economy, stands up to Trump, and moves forward with the brilliance of the workers here and across Quebec.
Damn. The guy who's a pragmatist and not a politician has learned how to politic.
Very quickly, but I'm not surprised. He's an intelligent, well-learned man.
There are so many phantom numbers in that platform. But let's start with the approach. With respect to $10 a day childcare, with respect to dental care, farmer care, the approach is, if you already have it, you can keep it, but no one else can have it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 types of Canadians. I thought a Canadian was a Canadian is a Canadian. In our country, that is the case. So you bet if you haven't had children and got them in, you get the point.
Remember when he said he was going to keep them to read the fine print?
Mm-hmm.
I suggested, hey, maybe those of you who have it get to keep it, but then you don't. So the child care program gets eliminated after all the kids age out.
Yeah.
I didn't kill it. The kids just aged out. There was no need for it anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly what. Oh, you mean so we're not having any more children ever again in the history of the country? Nobody's going to have another child?
Mm-hmm. So, what I asked Josh yesterday, would it have been better off had Poilièvre just not released anything at all and took the hit from not releasing anything? It seems that yes, and it seems that Corey Tonight also agrees and said so out loud.
Yeah. I got to run, but we'll show this last clip, and then I got to go because Lola really needs to go out. So I'll show this last clip, and then I will take my leave, as one must when one has a puppy dog that weighs 85 pounds and really needs to pee.
The Stephen Harper coalition back together. But everyone who thinks that crime is a ballot question is already in the Conservative column. There's no way that rhetoric is going to take an undecided voter and say, yeah, that's the message I was waiting for.
Could it be a motivation play? That's obviously part of it in the stretch run.
It could be, or it could be setting up for post-election, which is, you know, like the Conservative Party has very powerful caucus authority on whether the leader sticks around. We know that it is one and done in that party. If you do not win the election, you are gone. Is Mr. Poilièvre playing to this base not only to motivate the final stretch, but also to tee himself up to survive caucus revolt or convention revolt.
Not compromising the way Aaron O'Toole was seen as compromising, because Amanda, they do lead the league in regicide, and as you were nodding along, you think that's part of the play?
I do think it's part of the play. I think that he's trying to appeal not just to the base, but to the caucus. Brad and I actually had this conversation before we came on, so I totally agree with him. Some of the messaging right now, like, who are they talking to? Who are you shoring up in these final days with language like that? It's certainly not the women voters that you've lost. It's not the women over 55 voters that you've lost. It's not them. So who is it? If it's the base, they're already voting for you. It feels like a play for the what's next, especially if they head into a majority situation.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I was going to say, look, I've been asked this question about 4 times today in different conversations. What happens to Mr. Poilièvre if the Conservatives don't win the election? So it's happening. Conservatives are having the conversation right now, and that has to be very frustrating for...
You should see Benzie nodding here next to me, because Ontario Conservatives, but I'll get to him in a second. But keep going.
Yeah, I mean, Corey began the conversation, though that conversation was happening in different places, but it's picked up, and people are drawing up scenarios. Well, you know, if Mark Carney gets a majority, he has no choice. If there's a minority, then maybe he has a play. Depends how long. But it's not helpful for the Conservatives that that's happening now, and it's happening everywhere.
Okay, so Benzie, your enthusiastic nodding as a cue for me to come to you. Because, look, Conservatives love Pierre Poilièvre.
Yeah.
It's growing it that's been the challenge. Like, he's not in these ads because he is polling below the party. He's become a ballot drag in the stretch run of this. And that's why Harper and the older golfers are the face of the paid media push. So he'll have a lot of support in caucus and a lot of support. I mean, what are you hearing here in Ontario in terms of where things stand there? Because there is a lot of friction.
There's a lot of friction, and the Cialis ad might help with their electoral dysfunction that they're having in Ottawa. But I think, David, that to Brad's point, this is secure the core what they're doing now, and I don't blame them. I think that stuff sells. That's red meat for the base, and I don't blame Mr. Poilièvre for playing to.
But they're doing it in regions or ridings that would suggest an offensive play. Right?
Well, they want us to say that it's an offensive play, but if they were good example. Last night in Vaughan, they had 2,500 people, a good number of people at a rally. The only problem is they had hoped to have between 5,000 and 7,000. They rented a hall that could hold that many. So.
Do you think that's because the Leafs were playing?
It could have been the Leafs.
That would be.
It could have been the hockey game. It could have been, but it's also when you make a big deal about your rally size and then you're not getting big rallies or as big rallies, that's not great. Like, this is why I didn't understand why he was holding rallies early in the campaign. I thought his rallies were impressive. The numbers he was getting, that's fantastic. You do that in the last week.
It's got to build, though.
Yeah, you build to it. You don't start in Edmonton with 12,000 and then you end in Vaughan with 2,500. I think there's one, isn't he? He has one more, I think, is it Nova Scotia?
Nova Scotia tonight.
Yeah, so if it's 13,000 people in Nova Scotia, then I'll look foolish and I'll be wrong.
I haven't checked the schedule, like the debates commission, but I guess if the Habs are playing, they're a big Atlantic Canadian team.
Yeah.
But, Brad, do you think it
Okay. Kids and cups. Remember what I said when they're laughing at you? You're dead. And that was the second time that Mr. Benzie made a reference to Cialis. In that there was a little
Viagra, Cialis, you name it, electoral dysfunction. I'm like, oh, that's funny. That's funny. I do have to go, sir.
Yes.
My puppy dog is desperate to get outside. So thanks for joining us, folks. I will endeavor to do an ASMR this evening. I know I had promised to do one on Tuesday, but I forgot the hockey game was on. I wasn't going to do one when the game was on because I wanted to see the game. So, and yesterday was a very, very dark day. Today is feeling much better. I feel like myself. I'm not 100%, but I feel like myself. So I endeavor to put something up later today. It won't be at 9 p.m. because there's a hockey game tonight, but sometime today I intend to go live with an ASMR. So just pay attention. You might see a notification. And I do have a few things to talk about. So you take care. Have a great day.
Have a wonderful day, sir. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Bye.
All right, kids and cubs. So, not only are they laughing at him. Oh, no. No. Not only are they laughing at him. They are openly talking about what's next after him. 5 days to go, and they're already talking about what comes next after him. And you know your campaign is going well when news of the grumbling and news of the fact that it might be possible that you're going to lose your own seat as leader moves from the realm of online independent media, and I mean the ones that actually try to have some type of relationship with the truth, to smaller print media, to national news in the national paper of record, in the Globe and Mail by Robert Fife. Poilièvre may lose his Ottawa area riding as Liberals poised to sweep the region. And this is a good one, kids, so sit back and Uncle Beaver will tell you a story here. Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre is at risk of losing his Ottawa-Carleton riding as the party scrambles to send in volunteers to save the seat he has held since 2004, 2 federal and 2 provincial Conservative sources say. 2 federal and 2 provincial Conservative sources say. I wonder what province. Maybe the province that Carleton is in. Would that be Doug Ford's Conservatives? Doug Ford's Conservatives, again, giving information. Interesting. With several polls showing the Liberals poised to win the election, the loss of Mr. Poilièvre's riding would put the leader in a difficult position to hang on to his party post. Party headquarters has for the past 2 weeks been sending workers into Mr. Poilièvre's riding, including experienced campaigners who would normally be assigned to tight races across the country, the 4 sources told the Globe and Mail. The Globe is not identifying the Conservative sources, 2 of whom are from the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party, well, what you know, who were not authorized to discuss the Conservative campaign or internal polling. They say the Poilièvre Conservatives are also deploying troops from the party's Ottawa War Room to Conservative-held ridings, a sign in the final days of the campaign that the party may be poised to lose the seat. Poised to lose seats to the Mark Carney-led Liberals. It is standard practice in the final week of the campaign for War Room staff to be sent to ridings that are either vulnerable or have the chance of an upset victory. The 2 sources from the Ontario Party and a senior federal Liberal, all with access to internal polling, say that Mr. Poilièvre is in a dead heat with Liberal candidate Bruce Vanjoy in Ottawa-Carleton, a riding the Conservative leader won with 52% of the vote in 2021 and 46% in 2019. The Globe is not identifying the Liberal source who was not authorized to discuss internal polling numbers. So, at this moment, what we're learning from this part of the article is not only does it appear that Pierre is in trouble for his own seat, but the party is scrambling to send in volunteers to save his seat, and party headquarters has for the past 2 weeks sending workers into Mr. Poilièvre's riding, including experienced campaigners who would normally be assigned to tight races across the country. So, kids and cubs, what this tells me is that in a situation in which it seems the party is going down, the leader of the party, rather than look at his resources, these experienced campaigners and these workers, and assigning them to the places that would be in the best interest of the party as a whole in order to emerge from this election with the greater number of seats, has taken these resources and has put them into his own personal riding so he can save his own ass, so that he can maybe have a chance to save his own job by still having a seat after this election and to try to campaign in some way to remain as leader of the party. He has cut bait on his team. The selfish, little self-centered prick we all thought he was, he is. He's doing it right now. Leave the national campaign and help me win my seat in my riding. Me first. This is not a man that's going to serve you. This is not a man who believes in service. He is literally taking resources away from the rest of the team to save his own hide in the dying days of an election. Threw them under the bus. It's the kind of man he is. Unbelievable. Let's continue. The two sources in the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party say an internal poll completed Tuesday shows the Liberals hold a 53% advantage in Ottawa area ridings, with the Conservatives at 31% and the NDP at 10%. The Doug Ford-led party did not poll in Ottawa-Carleton. However, a senior federal Liberal insider said the Carney-led party has polled in the riding and Mr. Fanjoy is in a dead heat with Mr. Poilièvre at 48% and 49% respectively. The Liberals polled 381 people, and the results have a margin of error plus or minus 3, 19 times up to 20. Former Conservative Senate leader Marjorie Le Breton, who served in Stephen Harper's cabinet and worked for every party leader since John Diefenbaker, said Mr. Poilièvre can't survive as leader if he loses the election. Quote, if Pierre has the same results as we had under Aaron O'Toole and Andrew Scheer, and he loses his riding as well, all hell will break loose, the party will fracture, said Miss Le Breton, who served in Mr. Poilièvre's Ottawa-Carleton Riding Association. She resigned over Mr. Poilièvre's support of the trucker convoy on Parliament Hill. Quote, it's a sad day for the party that this has happened, Ms. Le Breton said. Provincially, Ontario Conservative polling numbers have the federal Liberals at 50% compared to 36% for the Conservatives and 9% for the NDP. The poll was of 3,000 Ontario voters. Conservative Party spokesman Simon Jeffries played down concerns that Mr. Poilièvre is in danger of losing the riding. Quote, no, of course not. No riding is ever taken for granted, but we are confident Pierre Poilièvre will be returned to Parliament to represent Carleton, he said. There are many politically engaged volunteers and staff across the capital region. They are being distributed to all Ottawa ridings. Pollster Nick Nanos, chief data scientist at Nanos Research, said Mr. Poilièvre cannot stay on as leader if he loses the election, let alone his riding. Quote, let's face it, there are going to be a lot of Conservatives who will not forget that he had a 27% advantage and people point to his personal lack of popularity, Mr. Nanos said. Quote, his message for change is popular, but they are not enthusiastic about him. He even had Lisa Raitt the other day on TV going, oh, you know, it's like they like Pierre's policies. They would just rather have Mark Carney implement them. It's like, if they want Mark Carney to implement them, maybe they want Mark Carney to tell you that this Pierre's policies are crap and point them towards better policies. I would think if they're voting for Mark Carney, it's because they want Mark Carney's policies, not they wish they could have Pierre's policies with Mark Carney implementing them. But nice try, Lisa. Nice try. In the Ontario election, where Mr. Ford won a third majority government, the Conservatives lost 4 Ottawa area ridings and barely held Mr. Poilièvre's provincial riding. In the waning days of the federal campaign, Mr. Poilièvre has been playing defense. He is scheduled to hold a rally in Saskatoon Thursday, a week after the Liberal leader campaigned in the province's largest city. Saskatoon last elected a Liberal MP in 1993, but a recent provincial poll suggested a resurgence and the possibility of breaking the Conservative Party's dominance in the city's 3 seats. The Liberals last won a seat in Saskatchewan in 2015 in Regina. Now, there's some people that are also cautioning with this one. Pierre Poilièvre has not been to Saskatchewan at all yet on this campaign, so has to make a stop at some point. Same thing with Nova Scotia. He's on his way there too, because he hasn't made a stop there. And it would seem that in Nova Scotia, his relationship with the progressive Conservatives over there is about as warm as it is with Doug Ford's in Ontario. So, except that Mr. Houston has not been as outwardly demonstrative of his dislike and displeasure with Poilièvre as Mr. Ford has been. The latest Nanos research shows that nationally the Liberals are in front at 44.1%, followed by the Conservatives at 38.5% and the NDP at 8%. The national survey of 1,200 adults is based on a 3-day rolling sample of 400 individuals ending Tuesday. It has a margin of error of plus or minus 2.7 percentage points, 19 times out of 20. So they're talking about it on the talk shows, and Bob Fife is writing about it in the Globe and frickin' Mail. You might lose your riding. Being asked, is Pierre doing this so that he can basically try to make a case to remain as leader after the election? Yes. People just outright say yes. Probably that. Like I said, on the night of that debate, that tier, people were saying it was, oh, Pierre's faking genuine emotion. Like this. I think it was genuine emotion, but not because of all the people that he's met and that he didn't get to meet, but because he was realizing that the dream he had since he was 14 was not going to come true. And that he's about to lose his job. And that given how unlikable he is, it might be harder for him to be recycled by the great conservative recycling machine that takes their, rejected leaders and makes some type of consultant or lets them go compete at another level, provincial, municipal, or something. I think he might be done. So, and given that he can't really do much anything else, right? So probably really, really cares about having as much as the headquarter resources put into his writing to make sure that he can still keep on living off the public teat. Maybe that's last one was a little unkind on my part. I'm open to that possibility. But yeah, that's not good when they're writing about life after you, before the vote has actually taken place. Pierre's not having a great time. Even in his campaign stuff, he seems to have given up a little bit. There was I won't be able to show it because Mr. Grizzly's not here. But there was a little, well, maybe I might be able to. There was a little snippet in his speech that day when he was talking about crime, because that whole last section that we showed you from the power and politics thing, that was in relation to Pierre's latest announcement that he was, again, because everything's about crime the last few days, his announcement about giving judges more permission to crack down on encampments and all that kind of stuff. And, again, we're talking about for those who are frustrated by this stuff, policies and politics that makes you feel good. Right? But that doesn't really do anything because, okay, you give the judges that power. Right? You give it to them. They use it. Then what? Where do they go? Where do they go? So it's policy that makes people feel good. Yeah, I get them. They're a blight on society. Ruin those encampments. But you still got the people. And you don't have the infrastructure. So give the judges all the power you want. There's no place for them to go. That's the problem. You need to solve that problem. The problem is not the encampments. The problem is that the people in the encampments have no place to go once you break up the encampments. And maybe if they had a place to go, there wouldn't be encampments. So, yeah, policy that's intent to make the base feel good. I'm taking action. Look how strong I am. But it's not strong at all because there's no follow through. It's all froth, but there's no follow through whatsoever to the plan. All right. Now here's a little moment when he's talking about this stuff. And I want you to compare the words he is using with the tone and the face. And I'm sorry for the listeners who are listening on podcast only. You won't be able to see this. You might get uh, a sense of the tone, though, however. But the tone and the face that go with this line he is saying. And tell me if to you, you think they coordinate, they match. All right.
Police associations, including the Toronto Police Association. Here's what he had to say about that.
It means the world to me to have the support of our most courageous people. The police who put on a uniform and they leave in the morning kissing their kids goodbye, knowing that they may not return. They do all of that so that you and I can walk our streets safely.
Poilièvre.
Do you get a feeling that he meant that? That he felt that he was grateful? It's like, these are lines in this type of speech that should be applause lines. These should be lines that, are pulling people in to your argument. And he just looks like he's annoyed and would rather be anywhere else. So like part of me is wondering, it's like, I look at that and I say, he's given up. I don't know if that's the actual case, but that's the feed I get. It's the vibe I get when I see that. Because if you haven't given up and if you're delivering and if you're selling it all the way, that's a line you sell. It's not a line you throw away. So, yeah. Just wondering what it is. And when I see that reporting from Bob Fife that they're taking stuff, and it seems that the focus of his campaign now is like, save my seat. There seems to be an admission, self-admission within the party, recognition that it's not going to happen. And he's already planning the next political move, how to stay on as party leader, how to avoid getting Aaron O'Tooled. And if you're focused on that on the last few days of the campaign, then you're not focused on doing what you're supposed to do as a leader to bring your team to the end. Yeah, not particularly inspiring. Then, more bad stuff kept happening for Pierre. Aaron Wary and Kathleen Cullen wrote an article for the CBC saying Conservatives update platform to include omitted anti-woke promise. The Conservative Party has republished the English language version of its platform after what it says was a publishing oversight resulted in the omission of a previous commitment to crack down on, quote, woke ideology in the public service and federal funding for university research. Earlier in the campaign, the Conservatives had promised as part of their Quebec platform to, quote, put an end to the imposition of woke ideology in the federal civil service and in the allocation of federal funds for university research. When the party released its full national platform on Tuesday, that commitment was repeated in the French language version, but it was missing from the English version. That was the thing that was reported earlier when Amanda Alvaro was talking about that. So, whoops, we made a mistake, but let's correct that mistake. Not by removing the offensive woke ideology clause from the French one, but by including it also in the English one. Yay. 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 Oh, man. Mid-morning on Wednesday, in response to a separate inquiry from CBC News, a party spokesperson said the omission was the result, quote, of a publishing oversight. Quote, the commitment was originally contained in the original Quebec platform in both French and English. The platform has been updated to reflect our policy, Simon Jeffrey said. Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre has often stated his opposition to things he considers, quote, woke, and has regularly used the word to criticize liberal policies. Last month, the Canadian Association of University Teachers expressed concern about how the Conservative Party's commitment could impact federal funding for research. Quote, in a recent interview with the Canadian Press, the association's president, Peter McInnes, said, quote, when you get politicians saying they're going to come in and interfere with this on some basis of, I don't know, ideological issues or political expediency, that's the concern. McInnes said that the word woke is now, quote, so vague that it could mean anything. It just means things that they don't agree with. So, they had to republish the platform because they were getting raked over the coals for why is this in one language but not in another language, being accused of, again, deux langues, deux discours, having two languages and two discourses. And then other people were pouring through the report. Faye Johnstone, well-known activist, particularly for the trans community, pointed out the Conservative Party of Canada platform only mentions women 4 times, with 3 of those mentions related to an anti-trans policy pledge. This isn't what Canadians want or need from our politicians or political parties. So this is from the Free Press, Anna Burns. A national 2S LGBTQIA plus political advocacy organization is calling out the Conservative Party of Canada for an anti-trans plank in its platform. Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre released the party's full platform on Tuesday morning in Woodbridge, Ontario, outlining what it describes as its, quote, plan for change. Included in the platform is a section on restoring public safety, which includes repealing Commissioner's Directive 100. The Government of Canada describes this directive as applicable to gender diverse offenders, ensuring that their human rights are respected and that their safety and dignity, as well as the safety of others in institutions and the community, are protected. The Conservative Party platform states the directive, quote, allows male offenders to be housed in women's prisons. The organization, Queer Momentum, released a statement Tuesday, April 22nd, saying it was shocked and dismayed by this. Quote, this comment, if enacted, would place transgender women at increased risk of violence and harm in an already violent criminal justice system, it reads. The party also wants to ensure that women's spaces and services remain protected in federal institutions and policy, reads the platform. Quote, this is ludicrous. The Conservative Party of Canada platform only mentions women 4 times, with 3 of those mentions related to an anti-trans policy pledge. This isn't what Canadians want or need from our politicians or political parties, Faye Johnstone, Executive Director of Queer Momentum, said. Quote, this is a Trumpian approach to politics, pitting women against transgender people, instead of advancing concrete measures to address the violence, discrimination, and inequality both women and transgender Canadians experience. The Conservative Party platform otherwise makes no reference to 2S LGBTQIA plus issues or the rights of the community. The Liberal Party of Canada and New Democratic Party platforms both mention protecting the rights of 2S LGBTQIA plus Canadians. The Liberal platform notes it will stand up for the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, quote, protecting the values it was founded on, which are under threat, and ensuring the protection of our most vulnerable people. It will also make funding permanent for the 2S LGBTQIA plus Community Capacity Fund. The NDP platform states, quote, we would take new steps to protect diversity in Canada, including supporting 2S LGBTQI plus communities who are increasingly subjected to hate and to violence. So yeah, we're only, that's the only mention of women. 4 mentions, 3 of them with regard to anti-trans policy. And, again, the Conservatives wonder why they're not doing well with women. But when one understands that Pierre Poilièvre once aspired to be Canada's MGTOW champion, this makes sense. For those who are wondering, MGTOW is an acronym for men going their own way. So yeah, this is all women are to Conservatives. One mention in the platform, and the rest is, well, about trans women. And the issue again with this, I want to make very clear. This document refers to trans women as men. So we start right off the bat with the disrespect of not wanting to refer to people in the manner in which they ask to be referred. That lack of basic human decency. Number 2, as I keep on saying, with the trans issue, if you want exclusive cisgender biological women's spaces in sports, you can have that. There's nothing wrong with that. You can decide to have that. But then you have the question of transgender women. They are human beings. They have the same fundamental human rights, the inalienable ones, as everybody else. If you house transgender women, not men, transgender women, in an all-male cisgender prison, who's at risk there? This time around, the transgender women. Their human rights deserve to be protected too, just as much as those of cisgender women, cisgender men, and transgender men. So there's got to be a way to incarcerate transgender people who happened to require incarceration in a way that maintains their dignity. Problem is that there's not a lot of them. So you're going to build a whole new infrastructure when you house them in prison. Do you build a wing in another prison where there's just them? So who do they talk to? Who do they socialize with? Who do they? Right? Again, policy that makes you feel good. Take them out of the women's prison. Okay. But what then? Put them in the men's prison, and now you have another problem with violence. Okay. Then we're going to build a transgender prison. Okay, so you build one somewhere? Well, what if their families want to come visit to them? You take people away from them. They have no visiting rights. They have no... There's always another issue, right? If you think it all the way through. And the role of the government is not to defend the rights of some at the expense of others. It's to defend the rights of everyone, no exceptions. And that's what this whole debate evacuates. It's always spoken about from the perspective of transgender women who transition from cisgender male to transgender women being in a cisgender women environment, sports, jail, whatnot. What will happen to the women? But the conversation never goes the other way. What happens if we leave transgender women in all cisgender male space when it comes to sports or when it comes to in-prison incarceration? Access to sporting and competitive opportunities, access to safe incarceration when it is needed, are fundamental rights that every Canadian citizen, no exception, should have. So if you are talking about people as other, that they do not have the right to it. If you don't want to mingle spaces, fine, but then you have to build a space for them. And that means you have to agree to the capital costs and outlays that will be required to do that. And because there's not a lot of them, then that creates the opportunity for to say, well, it's not worth it. The market's not there. But you decided to treat them as other. That's why I'm saying you got to follow through. If you're going to go down that path, go down that path. But make sure that the opportunities are there. And you can't do that. It would not be financially feasible. Just think of sports alone. What are the odds? What are the opportunities in the city of Toronto that there would be enough, let's say, transgender women? Although, let's put aside transgender men. There are only enough transgender women for a baseball league with competition high enough that someone who's transgender could make it to the Olympics or World Championships or something like that, had they the skill or the ability. It just closes the door right there, makes it completely impossible. So you have to look at both sides of the ledger when we're talking about these issues. And the Conservatives refuse categorically to do that. And they're not even at the point of doing it because they can't even refer to them in their own documentation, at least as transgender women. They just refer to them as men. They're not there yet. And they're not going to do it. And this is a wedge issue. And you have a lot of people going, it's not about wedge issues, it's about protecting people. It's a wedge issue. There are some people that generally care about protecting people and safety. That's fine. But it's a wedge issue because you're using it to make the case for a government not equally defending the rights and access of all. You're making the case to defend the rights of some at the expense of others. That is the very definition of a wedge. All right. Going to get off my soapbox on that one. But said, vote for governments that want to treat everyone equally. Don't start carving out exceptions. Except for these people here. They deserve less. That's the whole problem I have with C-21 in Quebec. Not C-21, but Bill 21 in Quebec. Because a Jewish man cannot teach kids if he's wearing the yarmulke. Because that alone means that he's trying to convert them. It's just silly. It's just silly. Right? We should be free to live authentic lives and have equal opportunity. Again, if you can play, you should be able to play. There should be an avenue for you. The purpose of all these laws, I said I was going to get off my soapbox. I guess I had more to say. Got to remember, the purpose of all these laws, the bathroom laws, all that kind of stuff, is to reduce the ability of certain people to be able to exist and function in public space. And when that happens, it means that the people who want to change the laws to accommodate their ick are making laws such that they don't have to see these people as much. They can see them as little as possible. If you can't, you're going out and there's no public bathroom that you can access unless it is like a single bathroom that you can go in. Kind of makes it hard to go out for the day, doesn't it? Because everybody's got to pee at some point. They're not harmless little laws. They're laws designed to single out people and reduce their ability to exist in public space. It's a very, very dangerous slope. So as Mr. Carney said, it's not the reason for which you want to use it now. It's for what's next. That's why you oppose this type of talk. 100% you don't entertain it, you just don't. Because you can always find a case on which pretty much everyone will agree. For example, keeping multiple murderers who kill people at a place of worship in jail for life. Going to be very, very hard pressed to find somebody that disagrees with that. But once you got that power, what's the next thing you use it on? That's what you got to be worried about. That's why you don't give the power in the first place. All right. Other ways things are not going well for him as well. In the same vein, on this topic, the Canadian Civil Liberties Association has come out yesterday and had a bit of an opinion on what it is that Mr. Poilièvre has been saying with regard to that. And it is this tweet here that I have for you is brought to us by Ben Perrin, again, who I will repeat, used to work with Mr. Harper, was one of the authors of some of these mandatory minimum laws. And as he grew, found out that these are terrible and they actually don't work, and has been fighting against them ever since and taking stances against these types of draconian measures. So, Mr. Perrin, citing here the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, and I'm going to put that up full screen for you here, and let's read this together, kits and cubs. Shakir Rahim, director of the Criminal Justice Program, made the following statement, quote, "The proposed use of the notwithstanding clause to overrule the Supreme Court of Canada's decision in R versus Bissonnette would set a dangerous precedent. It is false to suggest that we can either protect the public or uphold our charter rights and freedoms. Our system of justice is rightly founded on the principle that our society can and must do both." Again, I want to repeat that because this is framing that the Conservatives are proposing. It is false to suggest that we can either protect the public or uphold our charter rights and freedoms. Our system of justice is rightly founded on the principle that our society can and must do both. Because, kids and cubs, when you protect uphold our charter rights and freedoms, you do protect the public. And it is impossible to protect the public without upholding their charter rights and freedoms. They go together. They must both be done at the same time. Quote, the current minimum sentence for murder in Canada is life imprisonment with parole eligibility for first-degree murder set at 25 years. There is no guaranteed release date from a prison for those convicted of multiple murders. When a person is eligible for parole, their case is independently assessed by the Parole Board of Canada with due consideration for the protection of society. It's the Canadian Civil Liberties Association that felt the need to come up and say that. Again, this is not something that you want in the final days of your campaign. So, not great for Mr. Poilièvre. He's got a lot of things going on, and said we've got 5 more days. It'll be interesting to see what happens. We've seen the Conservatives, when we mentioned Saskatchewan, not necessarily being a sign, but we saw Liberals campaigning in Colchester when Mark Carney was out east over the past few days. And that's definitely Mr. Carney going on the attack, thinking that there are some Liberal seats, some Conservative seats that he can swing there. And then he was in Quebec for a while, competing in campaigning in a few other seats that he thinks that he might be able to take from the bloc there. So Mr. Carney seems to be a little more on offense. He did spend some time in his home riding on one day, campaigning a bit, because you do have to do that a little bit at some time or another, especially when you're the national leader and everybody knows that you're going to be away from your riding most of the time. It's still good to stop in now and then to do something. So that happened. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, for Mr. Singh, it might be a situation of campaign a little more in British Columbia. Now, Mr. Singh does have a couple of other areas, of course. There are 2 seats in the Edmonton area that are very important to the party. They have 1 seat in Quebec that's pretty important. And then there are the seats that they have in Ontario, a lot of them in southwestern Ontario. I think there are a few, 3 in Manitoba as well, if I'm not mistaken. One of them way up north, which is Nikki Ashton's seat. But so, I mean, there is lots of places for Mr. Singh to go, but a lot of those places have like 2 seats here, 2 seats there. So whereas in southern Ontario and British Columbia, there's a greater bulk of seats, and most have about half of his seats are in British Columbia. So strategically, if he's trying to make sure that he maintains 11 or 12, can't remember off the top of my head what the official party status one is at the moment. But if he's going to do that, of course, the biggest opportunity for return would be in the British Columbia area. Now, Mr. Singh has been, as I mentioned, has been trying to stand out. Josh Miranda, who we had yesterday, did mention that his policy when he had his platform release does very much meet with what it is that he's saying on the campaign. Where it is lacking, of course, is that it doesn't seem to have any plan whatsoever to help us diversify or move away from dependence from the United States. And again, doesn't seem to have a real plan to protect us from what would happen from the United States if something was going to happen that way, but does have lots of plans to boost healthcare and to protect workers and that type of stuff. So, some plans to weather the storm, but no plans really to fight back or to take a move or to reposition ourselves, it would seem. But he's really sticking to the healthcare message, and the, liberals, when they get too much power, they forget about you. So you need to vote for me. I'm going to take a look at a very, very quick clip from him making this case at the moment, and then make a little comment on that afterwards. Okay, so just want to make sure. Okay, we can do it that way too. That works. All right. Whoops. It would help if I turned on the volume there. Let's try that.
A campaign event with local candidates and volunteers.
He's asking for a majority. Don't give them a majority. You have the power to stop that. Here in Edmonton, you've got the power to elect more New Democrats. Use your power, send a New Democrat to Ottawa, and we're going to resist the cuts, and we're going to fight back and defend renters. We're going to lower the price of groceries. We got your back.
All right. So, again, Mr. Singh making his case, making a solid case. Again, hoping that people in those ridings with strong incumbents, there you saw Blake Desjardins behind him, will be able to make a case and drive that one home. So, staying, like I said, doing what he needs to do to hopefully reach this new objective that he set for himself. Also, with regards to Mr. Singh, there's some new talk that's coming out. So, like you said, right, it's like, don't give him a majority. Absolutely, do not give him a majority. The NDP has started to say things like, you need to stop a liberal super majority. And this, for me, is where Mr. Singh keeps on tripping himself up, or as I like to say, stolen from Jenny Byrne, trips over his own dick here. And it's with the exaggeration. Again, at the best, since we've been reporting on the polls every day, I think the highest number I saw for the Liberals was about 205. Right? We're looking at about 180 something now. Right? 205. The majority is 172. Right? That's 33 seats above majority. It's a healthy majority, yes. But it's not a super majority by any stretch. Right? There's another 128 seats out there. If you start talking around 240, 250, you might be talking about supermajority, but there's like never been any hint whatsoever of those numbers going in that stratosphere. So Jagmeet Singh is trying to convince people that it's such a given that the Liberals are going to win, that they're on their way to a supermajority. It's like, they're not. It's just a healthy majority at the moment. And even that, people are wondering whether or not that's there. There's still some questions about whether or not on the night we're going to end up with a slight minority, if it's possible, with things that, if things are moving in other places at the end of the days of these campaigns. So there is no supermajority possible, and there never, ever, ever was at any point of this campaign. But you have Mr. Singh here in the final days going, you need to stop a supermajority. So, do you know how many more votes the NDP would have to get to stop a supermajority than just a plain old regular majority? Again, it doesn't make sense. And I know maybe I'm being a little pedantic on this one, like Mr. Grizzly often is, but I'm stuck on that. Right? I just hear, stop the Liberals from getting a supermajority, and then the lead on the record goes, that was never a possibility. All you need them to do, Mr. Singh, is to stop the Liberals from getting a majority. That's it. Now, with regard to majority, while all this stuff is going terrible for Mr. Poilièvre, on the Liberal side, it seems that the big question being asked is, do you want a majority? Why aren't you asking for a majority? Because apparently Mélanie Joly said at an event that we want a majority, but Mr. Carney is not saying that he wants one. Just says, it's like, I would like a series of votes from individual people, and hopefully that will be enough, and it will be my honor to lead, that type of thing. So there's but obviously Mr. Carney wants the strongest mandate possible, and the strongest mandate possible would be a majority, which is the other problem with Mr. Singh's ask, is asking Canadians to not give Mr. Carney majority so we can have a minority parliament again. Well, again, even though the last minority parliament worked very well for a lot of the time, when we got to the end of it, though, it was terrible. I mean, remember the last session of Parliament. There was only one bill that passed since the second week of September, which was the GST holiday thing. All the parties were collaborating and conspiring to make sure that nothing would pass. So why would Canadians want to elect that again Had Mr. Singh been an honest broker throughout that entire time, he would be well placed to make that case. But he's the one that, in great part, contributed and made it such that that situation would happen. He never once used his party's ability to veto things being blocked from even being discussed by not giving full unanimous, by not giving majority consent to the conservative effort to hijack all the procedures in the House of Commons. But they only suspended that for the GST vote. That's it. They kept on threatening to take down the government at the first step, because all the time that the government was prorogued, he was asked if Parliament was to reopen. Were they allowed to reopen? He kept on saying no. So Mr. Singh keeps on talking about dental care and pharmacare. And yes, while he did get them on the agenda, he didn't actually see them through, though, to full implementation. He got them on the agenda, they got passed, and then he said, okay, now Liberals, up to you, but I'm going to prepare to make you fall before it's fully implemented for everyone. So the case that Jagmeet Singh is trying to make would be a good one, if not for the fact that he was, in the end, he proved himself to be a terrible person with whom to make a deal. And left some of his signature policies that he's campaigning on the floor. You can't be making that case if you did that. You can't be credible. You can't then come back and say, don't give them a majority, give them a minority, and we'll make Parliament work better and work for you. When the whole last session of Parliament, you used that power that you're asking for now to make sure Parliament didn't work at all. You're not the guy to be making this pitch. Sure, it's a good pitch, but you're not the guy. That's why it's not landing. People can remember a few months ago. Exactly. Lots of activity here on the chat there. The kids are having great comments. Great comments. Thank you so much for participating so actively. I appreciate it. So yeah. Now, Mr. Singh did get a bit of a boost from Rachel Notley, which is kind of good. Kind of good is good because from what I was able to tell, in every way, shape, or form, she was not very interested in having him around when she was campaigning. So it is nice to see her come out for him because we didn't know if there was any animosity there in any way, shape, or form. So let's take a little look at what it is that former Premier Notley had to say to support Mr. Singh. All right, and everything's good there. The sound is up. That's good. So, whoops. All right, there we go. Turn up the volume there.
Just take power. We change what power is used for. Because Jagmeet Singh has delivered more with just 2 Alberta MPs than 30 Conservatives wasting their breath on slogans and stunts. He pushed to get us dental care. He got us free birth control and diabetes medications. He stared down Galen Weston and made him blink. He forced the government to move on things they never planned to deliver. And because of Jagmeet Singh, this country now has anti-scab legislation. And 10 paid sick days for workers. And he did that without a majority. No fancy title, no comfy office, just guts and a sharp mind, and most importantly, a big heart. And that's what we need more of in Ottawa. Not hecklers, not headline chasers, not empty, repetitive, rhyming insults designed to rage farm, to divide, to distract from how little they're actually doing. No, what we need is people who show up, who do the work, and who deliver results. Ottawa doesn't change on its own, my friends. It changes because of who we send there. And that starts right here in Edmonton. Voting NDP stops Conservatives. But even better, voting NDP delivers, because we don't. My friends, we don't just block the worst, we fight for the best. So please join me in welcoming a leader who fights for you and for what's best every single day, Jagmeet Singh. Just take power.
So there you have it, kids and cubs. When I was talking to you earlier about what I felt was missing from Pierre Poilièvre's remarks, especially when he was talking about police officers, that again, he's talking about the sacrifice that they make and the hard work and, how we should be grateful to them. That's the energy. Rachel Notley's got that energy right there. That's the energy that should be in that. Like this, not as happy and all that kind of stuff, like clearly, like this, but if he's proud of them, there should be something from the emotion showing that he's proud. There has to be some vim, some vigor. His face is all contorted or whatnot. The NDP is in a way worse situation than the Conservatives are. They might not even have official party status, and they can still be happy warriors. What's your excuse, dude? Why this constant sourpuss? It's a campaign, and it's a party that knows it's done. It's the only thing I can conclude. All right, kids and cubs, I think that's going to be our show today. We've gone on long enough. And I've got a couple of Canadians that make you proud stuff that will take a couple of minutes before we go. So thank you so much for joining us. We enjoyed preparing this for you, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to it. Remember, sharing is caring, and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do. Now, kids and cubs, if you are, you are a kit and a cub on the go, busy, doing things, making democracy happen, raising your family, studying, going to work, doing your 9 to 5, whatever hours that you work, because we don't all work 9 to 5. And maybe you need to take us with you and have us in your ears. Well, we are compact and you can take us with you. All you have to do is scan that QR code brought to you by the Ray Girl. That will bring you to our pod page, podpage.com/the truenortheagerbeaver, with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you go there, there's a button called subscribe. And if you click on that, zip, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. And then we can be in your ears in no time flat, keeping you company and informed, and maybe even a little entertained. So thank you so much for doing that. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like to make sure you don't miss this in other ways, well, hey, that QR code that just appeared up there in the corner will bring you to our YouTube page, where we have 3 buttons for you: like, share, and subscribe. I have a little bit of dry beaver going on. I'll take care of that right now. There we go. Like, share, and subscribe. You click those buttons. It helps us with the algorithm. And, well, we get a little happy. So take a tip from Kit Elaine. If you're watching right now, if you smash now, you won't have to remember to do it before you leave. So come smash with us. We're frisky. Okay. Now, if you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, we do incur a few costs bringing this show to you. And if you like what it is that we produce, and you think, for example, chats like we had yesterday with Josh give you much information that you need to be able to make a better vote when comes the time, then we would certainly appreciate an expression of your encouragement in the form of a contribution to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, where every day we fight the scourge that is dry beaver. Terrible, 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 terrible thing. So if you would like to do your bit to keep your favorite beaver moist, well, then a slight contribution, minimal, no contribution is too small, to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund is always very appreciated. Maybe a cup of hot coffee for Mr. Grizzly, who enjoys that to get his morning started, or a mug of hot chocolate for yours truly. Well, and a little add a beaver. Well, that provokes some warm fuzzies and makes one feel good. So, if you believe that that we have done something that is work that is worthy during this election campaign, and you would like to support us in our ability to do more once the new government is elected, well, then a little contribution there will go a long way. And we are thankful and grateful for everything you are able to contribute. Now, kids and cubs, if you're not able to contribute anything at the moment because, times are tight or you're keeping your powder dry because you don't know what's to come, that's fine. Don't worry about it. But please do keep coming back to the show because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us. And, well, we love to hear from you. So please write to us. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address. If you write us a little something there, that makes us very happy. We like to get news from the kids. And you can also write us on our socials, True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge or on Twitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, or if you're listening right here on YouTube with the Damn Fam or later on, right down here in the comments section, let us know what you think. We do read everything, but we're not able to get back to everyone, right? Now, kids and cubs, that email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, is where you can send your questions if you've got for a Q&A show that we'd like to prepare. So if you've got any questions about politics, a subject that you would like to have our take on, or something you would like to know why that is, hey, we can give our best take on it. Also, if you have any questions about the show itself, how we get it, how we put it together, how we came to be, all this kind of stuff, how we do our research, what our sources we use, that type of stuff, please ask us anything, within reason, of course, but ask us everything. And when we have enough questions, we will put them together and do a show for you with your questions. So listen, you get to do the programming here at this moment. So send us your questions because we do need a certain number of them to have enough to put a show. So for those who have sent them in already, thank you. But we absolutely do need more if we're going to make a show of it. Okay. Also, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com if you would like to support our show financially, but make sure that your transaction is 100% Canadian because buying Canadian is very important to you. Hey, we got you. We got your back. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. You just send a bank transfer that way. Your bank deals with ours directly. No American CE Tech Bros takes a cut. We get 100% of your donation, and your transaction's entirely Canadian, and you support political analysis and commentary that's made by Canadians intentionally for Canadians. So we appreciate everything that you're able to do to help us there. All right, kids and cubs, because democracy is something that you do, remember the Quebec Liberal leadership race is on. It's active until June. So please do what you need to do to find out what's going on there. And on the 26th, because it's too late to do anything else now, we will find out who is the new leader of the Progressive Conservative Party of Manitoba. In the meantime, we do have a federal election going on. A couple more days to find out more about the candidates, do some research, read some platforms, all that kind of stuff. We'll be here bringing you some information as well over the next couple of days. But last voting day is the day, the 28th. So please, please plan your vote. Please talk to people around you about voting. Tell them how excited you are to vote, how important it is to vote, because we need to send a message to the United States with a very high voter turnout, hopefully as high as we can. I was looking at that 7.3 million in advanced voting, and if a regular voting maintains that, because that was 25% higher, we would have over 21 million voters in the next election. I think the last time, in the coming election. The last time I believe we had about 17 million people vote altogether. So 7.3 have already voted. That's, you're closing in on 50% of how many voted last time. So good on you, Canada, for coming out to vote. And let's hope that to 25% voting boost keeps on for all the way through, even on voting day. That would make me very, very happy. Okay. That's all that stuff. So kids and cubs, I will say that it could be a tough. Oh no, words of wisdom. Look at me running out without giving you words of wisdom. Jeez. Because I don't know if Mr. Grizzly left you with some today. But words of wisdom, kits and cubs. Remember what I say about pools. They are fuel, not comfort. So whatever you see happening over the next couple of days, like I personally would hope that the Conservative vote, the bottom would fall out. That would be my personal hope, based for this policy and platform. This platform and this costing. But odds are that's probably not going to happen because there are not so many people who are platform geeks such as I am. But the overall vibe maybe of not good fiscal management might make some people hesitant. The Conservatives' greatest enemy at the moment is the couch. That some people just decide not to go because they're convinced he's going to lose anyway. In polling, if it's indicated, if you're reading polling and they're asking the question of people, who do you think is going to win? If most of the Conservatives are saying they believe Carney's going to win, then that becomes a disincentive for them to vote. That might mean that more people opt to just stay home because what's the point? So, and that would be very, very good for the nation. Because if I was really, really hoping we'd be able to just crush this movement absolutely with the vote. And if not in terms of seats, it's not going to be a 240 or something type of majority, just crushing the Conservatives and send them below 100. Let's at least make it with the vote share, I guess, and the popular vote. All right, kids and cubs, that's all I got for you with words of wisdom there. It could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now I'm going to have to invite myself once again. Oop, you know what? Like the other day, I should probably remove the QR codes before I invite myself to cue the cock. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. Kids and cubs, there you are. Just a little bit of news about Canadians who make us proud. Short news, but because we've already gone on long enough. But in February, we may have reported that Canada's men's 17 and under national team qualified for the FIFA Under-17 World Cup for a third consecutive competition. Canada had dominated the group stage of the CONCACAF U17 qualifiers, winning all 4 matches, outscoring opponents by 26 goals and not conceding a single goal from open play. And they are now turning their sights to the 2025 FIFA Under-17 World Cup, which will be played in Qatar in November of this year. Well, kids and cubs, very recently, the Canadian national Under-17 women's national team secured its place at the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in Morocco after winning all 3 matches at the CONCACAF qualifying tournament in Nicaragua. Quote, as far as the performance, it was resilience and heart personified. It means the world to these players, especially those who experienced the heartache last time when they deserve to qualify. I'm so very proud of this group and the amazing staff I had on this camp. A collective achievement for sure. Canada opened Group B with a strong 5-0 win over the host nation Nicaragua, followed by a 2-0 victory over Panama on Thursday, and sealed their qualification with a hard-fought 3-2 win against Puerto Rico on the Sunday, April 6th. 10 goals throughout the tournament came from 7 different players, with Olivia Chisholm, Kaylee Hunter, and Melissa Kekich leading the charge with 2 goals each. So, congratulations to the next generation of Canadian soccer players. If both the men's and the women's under 17 teams are making their respective World Cups, the future is so bright, I gotta wear shades. All right, Cubs, have a most beaverific day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.